All right. I believe we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another Xbox 2
I believe we are
podcast
live.
episode.
What is going on,
everybody? And as always, we are here with my friendo, my amigo, the one who's been playing nothing but the Nintendo Switch for whatever reason today, Jez Corden of Windows Central fame. What's going on, buddy?
Hello, friendo, amigo. That's going to be our new thing now. Friendo, amigo. I like that.
I'm glad you like
I've
it.
been playing Nintendo Switch all day, which is not what I expected to be doing this weekend, but a very good friend of mine bought me a Switch OLED out of the blue. Oh, man. But, so I've been playing the Switch all day, and it's just what the doctor ordered, really. A break from the hardcore and play some casual games on the Switch. But how have you been doing, man? How have you been doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. We already have a lot of people here. We appreciate everyone tuning in on Saturday. We weren't actually sure when we were going to do this show because you had a lot of things you needed to get done. We couldn't do it yesterday because you were at the doctor's and you were pretty much run down, right? Didn't have any energy to do the show, and then you weren't sure we were going to be able to do it today because you were supposed to have family over. And then we were thinking about doing it Monday, but hey, kudos to your family not coming over to spend time with you. So now we can spend time with you, and everybody in chat can spend time with you, right?
Indubitably, yes. My family cancelled, so here we are on a Saturday. A rare, well, not so rare, Saturday podcast. Oh man, maybe we should just podcast from Friday through to Saturday so we can cover both days.
Well, actually, I mean, you got enough Xbox information that we could definitely string this along. And I do have to wonder, after last week, where there was so many articles written about what you said, you think there are going to be any articles written about what you said from this week? Because I always try to temper you on this because you're always so willing to give out this information, and sometimes I'm the one who's just like, Jez, are you sure you want to say this? Because and
man, I'm just excited. I get excited, man. You make me excited, and then everyone in chat's making me excited, and then things just spill out, like mayonnaise from a broken mayonnaise jar. To bring topical metaphor for you there. Or is that a simile? It's a simile when you say Leica, isn't it? You're educated, aren't you, Rand?
I'm very
college education, though.
Yes. So, yeah. I mean, as for my week, it's going pretty good. We got some things to talk about because my journey's over, Jez. It's finished.
Good journey.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about that. But Flame has hit up the super chat by saying, if Jez gets voted president, his vice president should be Austin Powers. Have a great show today, fellas. Speaking of Austin Powers, I hope you guys all saw the Austin Powers Mass Effect Twitter video or YouTube video that was making the rounds, because that was absolutely hysterical. I think I must have watched it 15 times. It
was really good. Really good.
It was really good. And Jeff Grubb's Game Mess, the one and only Jeff Grubb, although this might be his fake account. He does have a fake account. Does have someone that follows him around pretending to be him. Even though I think the actual real Jeff Grubb's in the chat. He says, Jez lied about Game Pass numbers, lol, liar like me.
I have no idea what's going on.
I mean,
we need verified checks on YouTube, maybe.
Yeah, why isn't Jeff Grubb verified? I need to know if it's the real one. I need to get that check mark. I need to see if it's the real one. Because it doesn't sound doesn't sound like something that Jeff would say. But I mean,
it's an imposter.
It's an imposter account. Although to be fair, you did say Xbox Game Pass is at 23 million, Jez. You did say that.
Yeah, I did.
Even though
what happened with that, Ron?
I know you showed me it. So here's what happened. Jez DMs me one day, right? Jeff, this is how this happened.
Wait.
This is how this happened, Jeff.
You need to be careful how you frame this.
Okay. You come to me and you tell me, listen, I got some information. And it says that Xbox Game Pass has 23 million subscribers. And I'm like, really? That seems pretty good, right? And then you say it here on the podcast, and everything's good. And then like literally after we go with the podcast, you're like, oops, I think I made a mistake. And I'm like, huh, what do you mean you made a mistake? He's like, yeah, I'm reading this information again, and it doesn't say exactly 23 million subscribers. And I'm like, well, why don't you send it to me so I can take a look at it? And Jez sends me the thing, and I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, yeah, Jez, this doesn't say 23 million subscribers. It said something completely different, but there was 23 million something, something, something. You briefly glanced at it and was like, this means this, and it was wrong. And
well, it was in big letters. It was in big letters, and I was like, the figure it was talking about was really boring. So like in my tired insomniac brain, I was like, 23 million subscribers? That's crazy. But then it was actually like the text said something like 23 million new friends on Xbox Game Pass. So it was actually referring to friend connections that were made on Xbox Game Pass. But when it says like, it said something like friends on Game Pass, I thought they meant friends like new subscribers on Game Pass, but no. Well, that's the problem when you don't read these things carefully enough. And then Nick said 22 million, and then I put like 2 and 2 together and made 5. So I was like, oh, hang on, is he talking about that 23 million figure that I read the other day? Yeah, but I walked it back. Alas.
Yeah, you always do walk it back, including last week when you said Avowed had like 120 people on it, and Outer Worlds 2 had 120 on it. And I remember telling you after the show, I'm like, you sure those numbers are right? Because that's not the numbers you told me. And then you went back and looked, and yeah, that wasn't right, so you had to retract that as well. You got to pass this. You got to tell me what you're going to say before you say it, because I know these things. I remember these numbers and stuff. I don't want people to like be like, well, Jez is wrong again, because you just you can't keep the numbers and stuff like that in your mind when you talk, because you just get so excited when you speak about what's going on with the Xbox. I'm always just like, Jez, I don't know if you should say that, because I don't want to get you in trouble, Jez.
Yeah, well, it's all delicate, all this stuff.
So if
figuring out what is correct and all that.
So if you guys have ever been like, Jez, we want you to leak more stuff, just keep in mind that I'm the one preventing Jez from leaking more stuff. I'm the cautious one. I'm the cautious one. I mean, like, you sure you want to do this, Jez? Sure you want to say this? Anyways, other than that, we got a lot here to talk about on the show. I mean, actually quite a bit. New Xbox games. Jez will be dropping more info about some of the stuff he knows. And I think you told me earlier today that you actually got more code names than the ones you already have. Is this possible?
Maybe. Yeah, there's a lot of code names. Like, I don't know what games attach to which game, but there's a lot of code names. A lot of damn code names.
Yeah.
Jeff did 2-step verification for me, so there we go. The fake Jeff is now banned.
So is the one that just responded to us right there the real one?
The real one just sent some random numbers that I asked for. That's 2-step verification. That's how that works.
So I should make that. I'll make that one a moderator, so people can know that he's the real one.
Sorry.
What?
Yes. I just dropped a piece of metal on the floor. Never mind.
Anyways, Space Dovakin, who's been a member for 8 months, says, my healthy dosage of Xbox 2. Did you guys see the new Digital Foundry analysis of Forza Horizon 5? That game looks awesome. Indeed, I did watch that earlier, but like I didn't need Digital Foundry to tell me that Forza Horizon 5 looks amazing, because I played the preview and immediately you can tell right away that it looks better than 4. And I don't know why everybody was like essentially going on about some downgrade. You remember when people were talking about a downgrade for Forza Horizon?
Some
Uh,
people were, spinning around, But
unbelievable.
it certainly looks the part. There's no guns or violence in it, alas. But
Oh,
for people who
Jez.
enjoy this kind of game.
Yeah,
I say that as I've been playing Pokemon literally all day. The least
you're
violent
not
game
even
ever.
playing a good
Like
Nintendo
Pokemon.
game like Metroid. You're playing Pokemon.
Well, Metroid Dread's still downloading.
Oh,
I installed it. I'm still waiting for it to install and stuff. Uh, but yeah, I'm gonna get on that Metroid Dread train, man. I knew Metroid Dread would bring me back. It's like I said before on the other episode. Nintendo's a drug dealer, and the drug they're peddling is nostalgia. And there are a few franchises in the world I am more nostalgic for than Super Metroid. When I was in hospital when I was a little kid, and I had sepsis, Rand. In hospital for a very long time, and all I did was lie in the hospital bed and play Super Metroid for like weeks, like with no guide, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. But all I could do was persevere. And eventually, I did complete that game. But it's Super Metroid special to me. Metroid, Samus,
that must be
Ridley,
one of the reasons why I just don't
Prime.
jive with Nintendo, because I have literally no nostalgia for anything they make. Because when I jumped from the NES, I went to the Genesis, and I skipped the Super Nintendo completely, and I didn't own a 64. My buddy did, so I basically didn't play any Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 games. So I think that's why when people talk about Nintendo and they talk about Mario and they talk about Pokemon and they talk about like what are some other big Nintendo franchises, Animal Crossing or Smash Brothers or Mario Kart or any of that sort of things that people love, I don't have the nostalgic love for it because I didn't grow up with it. Like I had the NES, but after that I was Sega kid. Then it was a PlayStation dude, and then an Xbox guy. Like I just sort of missed out on the Nintendo experience, I suppose.
Yeah, it's it's nostalgia, man. It is like I love Super Metroid and Pokemon, and those are the games I played. But I never really played the Zelda game, so don't have a huge amount of nostalgia for Nintendo. For Zelda, sorry, and I don't have a huge amount of nostalgia for like Mario and stuff like that. I got nostalgia for a lot of their dead franchises like F-Zero and Star Fox and stuff like that, but a lot of the franchises people love, like Mario and Zelda, like I don't have a lot of nostalgia for those.
Yeah.
But, like you put out a Metroid, straight back on the platform.
I mean, I do like Metroid, and I'm gonna probably have to hook up my Switch again and play Metroid Dread because it does look phenomenal. So, got another super chat from Supernova. It says, if Jez succeeds in the next election, he will serve mayonnaise for a year to the general public. Well, that'll probably get him overthrown. Yeah. Anyways, like there's a lot here to talk about, so much, but we're gonna talk about what we've been playing, and mine's gonna be short. I don't know what. I know you're playing the Switch. Have you played anything else this week?
I've been playing Wasteland 3's DLC. I don't know did I talk about that last week or not. I can't remember.
I'm not sure you did.
I'll just keep it. Yeah, I'll just keep it brief. I've been playing like they released 2 DLCs for Wasteland 3, Steel Town, and also I can't remember the name of the other one. Is it Cult of the? I don't know. Cult of the Detonation, I think, or something. I can't remember the name of the other one. But the Steel Town is like it's like a side story, like a side quest kind of thing, where you go and there's a factory that's been taken over. Factory provides like machinery to the recovering wasteland, and you have to go and find out what the hell went wrong. It's like a multi-level side mission. It's really good. It takes like a couple of hours to get through, depending on what the path you choose. There's loads of different ways to do it. There's tons of secrets in there. There's loads of new weapons in there. Some of them are really quite overpowered, I think, maybe. So it's like a good side quest to do near the start of the game because it gives you a bunch of weapons that just feel really powerful for the point you are at in the game. It's like a grenade, fully automatic grenade launcher kind of thing. It's just hilarious the amount of carnage some of these weapons can wreak. And if you use flamethrower characters as like a whole set of armor, that's ideal for fire using characters and stuff like that. There's a ton of good stuff in that DLC, and the writing is just really good, hilarious, like laugh out loud writing nonstop, tons of secrets. It was just a really great DLC, and I think it was like $8 or something. I was like, yeah, this is a great DLC, like Steel Town for Wasteland. Haven't gotten through the other one yet, but if you're into Wasteland 3, Steel Town has been a really great excuse to go back and play the game again. There's not often nowadays that I go and play a game through a second time because I just generally don't have the time. But Steel Town was great. It was really great DLC. Other than that, Rand, I've been playing Pokemon Unite, which you're not going to want to hear about. And the chat's probably not going to want to hear about. Because it combines two of your most hated things, Rand. Or three, maybe.
Okay.
It's free to play.
Ugh.
It's a MOBA.
Oh, jeez.
And it's Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, two of those. I don't necessarily hate free to play, but yeah, two of those other ones, though. Yeah.
People say it's pay to win, though. Because, like, at higher level, you can pay money to get more powerful versions of the abilities or something. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I haven't gotten to the point where there's, like, it started compelling me to buy stuff. Thankfully. But, like, in the early game, I'm just, like, absolutely destroying everyone. I don't know if it's because it's making me play against kids or I'm playing against mobile phone players or something, but I'm absolutely... And I haven't lost the game yet, and I've been top of the scoreboard every single time. I have no idea if, like, the matchmaking is just pairing me against, like, people who can't play the game to try and make me feel like I'm good. I don't know. Like, you know, I get that sort of, like, with free-to-play games now, I often have this sort of thing in the back of my mind where I'm thinking, how is the game manipulating me? How is their matchmaking algorithm manipulating me to try and get me to get addicted to this game? And like, the fact that I've never played the game before and I'm absolutely obliterating everyone makes me feel like they're purposefully feeding me bad players to make me feel like I'm good. So, like, eventually it's gonna start pairing me against actual good players. I'm gonna get absolutely stomped. But right now I'm having a blast destroying mobile players and destroying probably, like, little kids who don't know what they're doing. But yeah, I really like it. It's a really fun game. But it makes me feel like, man, I kind of wish Microsoft would make a game like this. I kind of wish there was a Microsoft MOBA with Master Chief and, like, all those sort of Xbox characters. I think it would work really well. Like, MOBAs feel great to play with the controller, in my view.
Well, didn't you say that Xbox was making a MOBA game of some kind?
Potentially. I've heard Indus is the Indus. Wait, I'm getting my code names mixed up now. Which one's Indus?
Indus is the 4X, like, City Skylines-ish game, isn't it? From Oxide.
Ah, right, yeah. So there is some kind of MOBA being made by Microsoft right now with another partner studio. I can't remember off the top of my head what the code name for that is. What is it now? I can't remember. I can't remember. But there is some kind of MOBA coming from a Microsoft partner studio. But I don't think it's going to be using Microsoft properties. But I could be wrong.
That
maybe
seems like a miss.
I don't know.
There's so many properties now with Bethesda. It's like, maybe now's the time to do a kart racer as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You could have like a Doom guy in there. You could have, like, all the characters from, you could have Bethesda characters in there. You could have Halo, Killer Instinct, and there's loads of characters they could put in a MOBA, all-star MOBA and stuff. But I'd love that. And, Pokemon Unite, like, I know it's Pokemon and whatever, but it plays really well with the controller. It really, really does. It feels great to play. So I do think the entire console industry is missing a trick here. There's literally no MOBAs that are worth playing on Xbox except for Smite. And that's, like, third person. It's not like isometric. I don't know. But yeah, that's all I've been playing really this week. I've dabbled in a few other games on and off. I was testing the Razor Wolverine V3 Chroma this week, so I installed Call of Duty Black Ops to try it out, try out the controller, and then uninstall Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War straight away after because it still sucks. But yeah, that's basically all I've been
What's
playing
going to be
this
better this year, or what's going to be better, Black Ops Cold War or Vanguard?
Oh, I don't know, man. They're both terrible. Let's face it. Let's just be frank and honest about it. Like, man, why does Call of Duty Vanguard have laser dot sights in it, man? It just bugs me. If you're gonna make a World War II shooter, make it a World War II shooter. But I've already had that rant, so let's not go down that again. But yeah, that's all I've been playing, man. What have you been playing, Rand? What have you been playing,
right.
Friendo
Amigo?
amigo?
Kendrick Starr in Super Chat says, "Forget Metroid, Jez. Play Unsighted on Game Pass." So he doesn't want you playing on the Switch. Supernova asks if there's any tiny hope for Rise 2. Rise 2, Jez. What do you think? Possible? Not possible?
Man, I want to believe. I want to believe, Rand. I want to believe.
There were rumors not that long
Rise
ago.
was a really cool game.
There were rumors not that long ago from our buddy, our friendo, our amigo, Special Nick, over at Xbox Era.
Special Nick. Did he say that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he kind of said that Crytek was working on a Rise game, or there was a leak around it, and he mentioned it or something. But there was also the point where everybody thought Microsoft was going to acquire Crytek at E3. I remember that. I don't know.
I haven't heard. I have a few code names that I have no information about, and people in chat are asking what is Belfry. I have no idea what Belfry is. I have no idea what it is. All I have for Belfry is a code name. So who knows? Maybe Belfry's Rise 2. If Belfry was Rise 2, I would have no idea about it. And there's other code names I know which I have no idea about right now. And they could be Rise 2. But I haven't personally heard a shred that Rise 2 could be on the way or greenlit or anything like that. I think I would love to see a Rise 2. I think Rise 1 was kind of like, it was really great that they salvaged Rise 1 from what was supposed to be a Kinect native game. And they were doing a load of Kinect native games around that time that they were actually making a Kinect first Gears of War game, believe it or not, around that time, I heard recently, which is very interesting to think about. Like, how would you play that? Would you use your arms to do the Lancer or something? I can't even imagine how that would work. Maybe it'd be like an on-rail shooter or something. I don't know. Jeff Grubb, the hero, is looking into Belfry, so we might have some more information about that soon. But yeah, I haven't heard anything about Rise 2, but I'd like to see it come back. Would you like to see it come back, Rand?
Yeah.
Did you rate Rise 1?
Rise 1, I thought, was good. I don't think it deserves the score it has on Metacritic. I think a lot of reviewers took out their frustration on what Xbox was doing on a lot of their games in the beginning of the generation. Because I don't think Rise is a 60. I'm not saying like Rise is like an 85 or anything, but I kind of looked at Rise as a game that was, had some troubled development. It was supposed to be a Kinect game for the Xbox 360, and then it transitioned to basically an Xbox One launch title with just kind of Kinect features. And for what it was, I thought it, there was a lot of room for improvement, right? I thought okay, the game, it's also still an incredibly looking, game even today when we play it on the Series X via back and pat. I always kind of thought to myself, man, they could have made some really cool improvements for Rise 2. That could have Microsoft could have had their quote-unquote God of War franchise that they could have trotted out every few years. But that's kind of the situation with the Xbox One, is we didn't get many sequels to a lot of games, where sometimes the sequels end up being a lot better. And I always kind of compared Rise to Uncharted, being that Uncharted 1 I don't think was very good, but Naughty Dog was allowed to make its sequel, and they kind of found their formula, and Uncharted 2 was incredible. And I kind of
Yeah.
felt like, what if, you gave Crytek actual time to make it, and it wasn't this kind of mishmash of, well, it's 360, no, it's Xbox One, well, it's Kinect game, well, kind of Kinect, but not really. These problems that it had, and just be like, okay, you take the vision of what Rise was, and you kind of cut out the Kinect stuff, and you just make it better. You work on the combat more, right? I thought it could have been a really cool franchise for Xbox. Now, maybe they revisit it. I don't know what Crytek is doing. They just released the remastered trilogy, so clearly there's probably a new Crisis game coming. Because why else would they bother doing, remastering the Crisis trilogy if they weren't getting prepared to, reintroduce people to the franchise if they weren't going to do a new Crisis game? But I mean, I would like it if it came back. So yeah. Austin says, I don't know if it's anything, but I saw in Game Pass coming soon, Halo Infinite changed from full graphic to Halo Infinite multiplayer. Hint on campaign delay with no co-op and ray tracing at launch. Well, we don't know if it's going to be two separate apps like Crackdown was, where like you download the game, or maybe you just download the multiplayer and then the campaign separate. We're not really sure how that's all going to work, but they did confirm, Jez, that there is no ray tracing for Halo at launch. Does that bother you?
Doesn't bother me. It is kind of like, it's kind of irritating in a way, because they use ray tracing as a selling point for next gen. Like they were like, Xbox Series X can do ray tracing, blah 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 blah. And I remember writing the review for the Series X, and it was like, well, we don't really have any examples of ray tracing right now. There's like a couple of caves in Gears 5 that uses ray tracing. And we still don't have the Watch Dogs update for ray tracing. And when the update did come for Watch Dogs ray tracing, it was terrible. It looked horrible. I don't know if they've improved it since, but the first Watch Dogs Legion patch for ray tracing, it made everything look like it was covered in Game Boy graphics. It was just pixelated and horrible. It was terrible. So I'd rather they got it right than do something like they did with Watch Dogs Legion and rush it out or something. But it's increasingly looking like ray tracing is just not happening this gen, really. I mean, there's parts of Psychonauts where you can see ray tracing being used. But Psychonauts has quite simplistic graphics, I guess. And then like there's some of the games where you get ray tracing here and there. Like, I thought the ray tracing implementation in what's it called now? That Cyberpunk game by Bluebird. What's it called?
The Medium?
No,
Or no, the
Cyberpunk
Cyberpunk one.
Spooky Cyberpunk one.
Yeah,
can't
I
remember what it's
played that one. I
called.
just can't think of Observer. There you go.
Observer. Observer. Man, I'm starting to get old now. It takes like my brain a long time to recover memories from deep storage. I need an NVMe brain. But I thought Observer had really good ray tracing. I thought that was like a really good example. But then it's like a walking simulator. So, I just get tired. I get tired around of walking simulators.
So you don't think Halo Infinite ray tracing not being there is a big issue? Some people just say this is just a further compounded issue of Halo Infinite's problems, like no co-op at launch and no Forge at launch, and now there's no ray tracing at launch.
I mean, if I had to speculate, maybe their implementation of ray tracing is tied up to a future version of the operating system, because we've had this before where like Microsoft wants to implement a new version of something which requires a new DirectX version or something, and that gets delayed, so then they have to wait for that. I'm sure if they wanted to use what the ray tracing stuff they've got now, they could probably just turn it on, but maybe it wouldn't look as good as what they've got planned. That's just speculation and being apologetic for them. It's right, like damage controlling, I guess. But without knowing the full reasoning why they're not doing it, or having a source to corroborate any of that, it's just speculation. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's sort of it's like you say, it's just kind of irritating. Halo Infinite has the burden of showcasing the platform, the console, blah 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 blah. So, what ifs?
I didn't really think this was news because they said it wasn't gonna before the game was delayed, the first time. They said
Yeah.
that ray tracing wasn't gonna be there, which I was like made sense because it was like they're rushing for launch. They probably like, well, what are some of the things we don't need to focus on for launch to get this game out? And it was like ray tracing is clearly one of them, right? And then the game was delayed a year, and I just thought to myself, well, they're delaying it because there's other issues with the game, and ray tracing isn't important, to delay a game for. So, of course, ray tracing is not going to launch with the game even after it's been delayed a year, and that proved to be the case. So it's coming later. It's just one of those things where it's like ray tracing isn't needed, but then when you take it combined with like, oh well, co-op's not there and Forge isn't there, a lot people will look at it and be like, well, this doesn't speak well to the game. But then it's like a lot of people have played the game, right? We've all played the multiplayer. We all love the multiplayer, and not everyone, but the majority of the people seem to be very enthused about the multiplayer. And I don't know, out of the games that I played with ray tracing, I prefer not to use it because I prefer a rock solid frame rate, and I don't think the rays are worth playing the game at 30 frames. So, and even on the PlayStation when they do offer like Miles Morales and Ratchet, like ray tracing performance mode, I typically tend not to choose that one. I just choose straight up performance. I don't know. Ray tracing, at least right now, with 1 year into the generation, it's not that impressive, and maybe it becomes better when cross-gen ends and they understand what the systems can do better, because a lot of these games that are being built now were built like when systems were just, the dev kits weren't really finalized, and so it's like they're not really taking full advantage of the systems just yet. So maybe in a couple years it gets better and ray tracing becomes a bigger thing. Like Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 has ray tracing in Forza Vista mode. And I think that it maybe has to do more with the engine. And since Turn 10's working very hard on the next iteration of Motorsport and upgrading the engine for next gen, then you'll probably start to see ray tracing in the actual game, which then the next Forza Horizon will have ray tracing. So I think it's more of a thing of devs getting used to it and updating their engines for it, and maybe it becomes a bigger and better thing a couple years from now. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
I guess.
Chris wants to know if we've heard anything about Rare. It seems they've done quiet since Everwild was being reevaluated. Well, Matt Booty did talk on the Kind of Funny podcast that the whole game being rebooted was kind of blown out of proportion to a certain degree.
Yeah, I think some of that stuff shows like a lack of understanding from journalists on how game development works. It's probably like they just, in pre-production, they decided to take it into a different direction, and they interpreted that as a full-blown reboot. But whatever. I still have no idea what kind of game it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Sea of Thieves has been incredibly great for Rare. They just announced 25 million players, which is incredible. When you go back to 2018, everybody played Sea of Thieves, and it was like, man, there's not a lot of content here, and it reviewed pretty poorly. The fact that it turned around as well as it did, you could make the argument that Sea of Thieves was probably the most important IP for the Xbox One generation. Definitely the biggest new IP that they launched. And you could put it up there with the Forza Horizons. I mean, could you put it up there with Halo? Potentially. Did Halo 5 Guardians have 25 million players? I don't know if Xbox really announced player numbers for that game. It's even possible more people played Sea of Thieves than they played Halo 5, which would be interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't expect them to turn around on that. So, but it's been 3 years now since Sea of Thieves has been out. Going to go on 4 years next year. And I think a lot of people like it's kind of like one of those things where you either love Sea of Thieves and you want to continue to play it, but a lot of other people are like, all right, I'm ready for something new from Rare, and they want to know what Everwild is. So it'll probably be a bit before we see it again. But I wonder what else if they're working on anything else besides just Everwild. Personally, Everwild, while it looks super cool, like I love the art style, I'm not necessarily sure going around healing animals is going to be my thing. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what it is before we kind of judge it, I suppose. But that's
maybe
kind
it's
of
like the opposite of Grounded, where in Grounded you go around killing animals and eating them, and then in Everwild you go around healing all the animals that you've killed in Grounded to balance out your karma.
yeah. This also speaks to a more mature Xbox and their studio leadership because we've talked about it before. Like Xbox really, they pushed games out maybe before they were ready. Now with all the studios they have, they don't necessarily have to have games out when like we would be talking about Gear 6 and it would be coming out next year if we normally talked about the cycle, right? But they're taking extra time for the next Gears game. Forza Motorsport normally would never have gone 4 or 5 years without a release, but it kind of needs a refresh, a reboot, right?
Yes.
So you kind of look at all this stuff, and Xbox is giving them longer time to make the games better, which is great. So in times past, maybe like Microsoft would have been looked at Everwild and been like, okay, we'll just go with what it was, release it instead of giving them extra time. So I always kind of look at the positive side of it. It's like you give the games all the time in the world that you need because you have all these studios, which kind of goes into our discussion from last week where I said Xbox needs to buy more studios because games take longer to make, and who knows, with development issues, you're always going to need games to fill in voids. And you were like, well, no, like you were trying to argue the opposite, that they shouldn't because, there's diminishing returns, which I understand if we're talking about buying 50 studios. But I was just like, another 7 studios would be pretty good. Hit that 30 number. Then you can comfortably have games that come out all the time. Even if games also run into some dev issues, it doesn't matter because you still have all these games.
I was just thinking about like Embracer Group.
Well, who knows what Embracer's doing?
I have no idea what Embracer's deal is, but like Embracer Group, they can have a million studios because they want to release their games on everything. But like Microsoft can't really do the Embracer Group thing because they're sticking to one platform and it's all about Game Pass, right? And if Game Pass only has so many subscribers in it, then you eventually start sort of competing against yourself. Like they can accurately measure how much free time realistically every single member of Game Pass has. They can measure the exact amount of free time. Like they can just look at how much people are playing, and they can be like, okay, well, these people aren't running out of things to play. They've got this much free time, or this is how much extra time we've got to fill, right? So I was just sort of thinking about it from an analytical, sort of mathematical kind of way. But they also need to grow, and I think like it's like some, we're going to talk about this later because there was some pretty spicy takes about those missed, quote unquote, missed targets this week, quote unquote missed targets. So we're gonna have some spicy, discussions about that. But is those AAA bangers, right?
Yeah,
we do need them.
Yes, we do.
I agree with that bit of it. That part of it.
Yes, we do. Dan Becker says Psychonauts did not have ray tracing. Well, I don't think anybody said it did have ray tracing.
No, you
did say that?
I said I said it had ray tracing, but I think like didn't it have ray tracing in some parts, or is that seriously just screen space reflections? Like there's a part in Psychonauts where there's a slime everywhere, and I thought that was like ray tracing. Is that just screen space reflection?
Could just be screen. Yeah, I think it's just screen space. I don't think it was ray tracing.
Okay. Well, it looked bloody gorgeous, no matter what it was.
Flame says, thankfully I'm not playing Halo until June or so. Might be later until ray tracing gets added. After Cyberpunk, I don't want to support incomplete games. And Cyberpunk's next gen update got pushed to next year alongside the update for Witcher 3. So look for that next year. Space Dovahkiin says, I think the full Velocity architecture is bound to direct storage, and that tech is bound to full PC support, and direct storage got delayed on Windows 11. And Scarecrow's been a member for 20 months, says, dogs are fed, birds are chirping, wife is sleeping. In time to relax, listen to the dynamic duo of Xbox content. Have a good one, boys. Thank you for all the support. So I guess really quickly, before we get into all these juicy topics, so when I said earlier that the journey's over, right, for me, we know for the past month, shout out to Saintery for becoming the newest member, appreciate it, man, that I've been reading The Wheel of Time, right?
Oh, that journey.
That journey. So 14 books and a prequel, so 15 books. I finished it. Some 4 million words or whatever it is. Basically spent the last month and a half reading nothing but this, or pretty much doing nothing but this, taking some time here and there to play some video games, but I needed to finish this, and I did. So I finished the last book a couple days ago, and so how do I say this without sighing? It was everything I wanted it to be, Jez. It was, the ending was the most satisfying conclusion to anything I have ever read or seen in my entire life. And
Haven't you read them before? I thought that was your whole deal, man.
The what?
No? Haven't you read them before?
I read... So, see, the problem is when I started this series when I was 16, right? I'm 40 now. I'm old. Not as old as Jez, who had his birthday last week, but I started it when I was 16. So there's a part of me that never really wanted to finish it, to see it end, because that would be the closure on... a time of my life, right? Like the time where I was carefree, you're in high school, it's best time, hanging out with your buddies. And rereading the series, which I've done multiple times, I was just always in this position of reading it and kind of remembering what it was like then when I started it, right? So it's this journey that I started 1996, 97. And I never, when he died, I never wanted to, I don't know, I kind of was just well, that's it, I'll never finish it. But then for whatever reason, I decided I want to read it again. I want to see what the ending's all about. And so I read all of them, right? I finished it. I hadn't read the last 4. I hadn't read the books where Brandon Sanderson wrote because he died. And I mean, yeah, there is a lot of nostalgia there because it means a lot to me. So I'm not gonna lie about it. I don't know if I should say this because people will make fun of me. So maybe I shouldn't, but whatever, who cares? People make fun of me all the time. I had tears streaming down my face, Jez. It was hard to read the last, 100 pages, because it was everything I wanted it to be. So, tears of sadness that it was ending, that a part of my life was finally,
come to a close.
Right? Characters died, main characters, which were shocking. And, characters that I've been, the series has been, I talked about before how I had to sell all my books when I was homeless for a bit, but there was a time where when I was homeless and I didn't have any money and I was living in my buddy's car, where I would, during the winter, which is really cold in Chicago, 20 degrees below zero, and before I needed the money, because I had some at the time, but those books would keep me company as I would be in the car, not being able to sleep, because I was so cold. So I would have a flashlight or the thing on the, when you click on the light at the top of the car, like you turn that on, and I would sit there and I'd read it, and it would keep my mind away from like the problems of my life at the time. And I had read through the series like twice when that was going on. And then eventually I needed more money, so I sold them all. So like this is a series that as I've been reading since like almost all my life, and it helped me out during the darkest times of my life. So like finishing it and seeing how everybody ended up, like I don't know, it got to me, man. And then I ended up getting this like a huge, like as soon as I finished it, I just got like hit with this overwhelming sense of depression. So I don't know, it was, I don't want to speak more about it because I can see some people being like, I'm tuning out, but like yeah, like anyways, let's move on. So that's
I know how you feel, man.
that's basically
When you...
that's basically what I've been doing. So I finally finished it. I finally finished the series, and I'm moving on so I can get back to playing video games. It was just something I needed to do, and so yeah. Jez.
I know how it feels, man. Like when you're involved in something like that. But you know, onwards and upwards, man. And you know, look how far you've come. You know, I can't pretend to know what it's like to be homeless. I can't, but we all go through stuff, and you've done pretty all right, man.
Yeah. We done pretty good. So I can't wait to see what the show's like, so I can finally see it on the screen. So, but Jez, we got a super chat here from K Asante. He says, "Salute to the Xbox 2 and to you, Rand. Some of us use the Xbox 2 to get through dark times for the pandemic. We love you both. Keep it up." Thank you. Let's talk about Wu-Tang. Talk about new Xbox games. Wu-Tang. So you had teased something about I want to get into Wu-Tang all the way back in July. And it was
I did.
and the one and only Jeff Grubb saw it. And he called you, well, he didn't call you out on it, but he was like, Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. And I was just I started laughing because I was like, oh geez, Jeff's just basically telling the world, you know, what Shaolin is, because that's the code name for it. So do you have any more information about Wu-Tang, Project Shaolin, or whatever the hell it's called?
Man, it's funny because like I heard back in July Microsoft was making a Wu-Tang Clan game. And I was like, really? That is very, very interesting. And I had information, but I wondered if it was just a pitch, if it was actually going ahead, if someone had just pitched it and it was like not actually going to get greenlit or whatever. But then like as part of that Nvidia leak and like a bunch of other information, this code name came up, which is codename Shaolin. And I was like, man, if Shaolin is related to that Wu-Tang thing that I heard about months ago, that's a bit on the nose for a code name. But, you know, not all code names are created equal, I guess. Because Jeff Grubb of VentureBeat fame, he made the link that I wasn't able to make, that it is, like, I couldn't confirm that Shaolin was the Wu-Tang game. All I knew is that I knew there was a code name for Shaolin, and I knew there was a Wu-Tang Clan game. But I couldn't make the link, but Jeff was able to make the link. So it does seem like there is a Wu-Tang Clan game in development that uses Wu-Tang Clan lore, which I am completely unfamiliar with. Or even if like I'm just gonna so there's people in chat saying Wu-Tang was a martial arts philosophy, not the actual band. You say this, but I've got information here that it says the soundtrack for the Wu-Tang Clan game is made by the Wu-Tang Clan, the music group. Now, I don't know if that's because it's, they are the main part of the game, or if it's like based on the martial arts lore or whatever. But I'll just go into it, okay? So it's made by Brass Line Entertainment, and they have on their website that they're working on a unannounced action RPG. And then the information about this Wu-Tang Clan game, Project Shaolin, it says it's a third-person fantasy action RPG revolving around melee combat, supporting up to 4-player co-op. It's got a beefy campaign, a couple of dozen hours, according to this. It's got seasonal content, so it's going to have ongoing stuff. It has Wu gods in it. I don't know what that means. What is a Wu god? That's probably from the martial arts stuff. It's got looting aspects. It's got dungeon crawling, and with replayability and modifiers and stuff. Kind of like how Endgame, like in Minecraft Dungeons, for example, like you'll have modifiers and different kind of mobs and stuff like that. And it says the soundtrack is made by Wu-Tang Clan, by Brass Line, and the game's made by Brass Line Entertainment. So, yeah, that is Project Shaolin, from what I understand. And this information came first from Jeff Grubb, who went into more detail about it, I believe. But and I think what happened was someone actually said it in chat on his stream that they guessed it was Brass Line Entertainment, and then Jeff said, "Yeah, it's Brass Line Entertainment." So, that's where we are. That is another game coming from Microsoft, apparently. And now it's from what I understand, it's pretty early, like Project Dragon as well. So don't expect to see this anytime soon. But that is the pitch, and I have no idea if they've actually landed Wu-Tang Clan to do the soundtrack, or if that was just a sort of a pitch. I don't know if that's like a plan or a hope or a goal to get Wu-Tang Clan to do the music, or if they've actually done it, and if there's if that's all greenlit and that's all going ahead. But the fact that it's got a code name, Project Shaolin, it does seem that it is going ahead. So, yeah, that is that. Rand,
so
what do you think?
So sounds like a Diablo style game. Third person melee combat, action RPG. That kind of sounds like Diablo to me.
Yeah, third person. I don't think it's isometric. It sounds like regular sort of. It just says third person, so I guess that could be isometric. But yeah, it sounds like it's got replayable endgame content, seasonal content, gear, loot, weapons, and replayability, and seasons and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm really, really super intrigued, because while I do like Minecraft Dungeons, it kind of like it's still Minecraft, I'd like that kind of gameplay with a sort of more maybe serious style or take on it. But yeah, I have no idea how this is all going to play out. I have no idea if it's going to get cancelled. I have no idea if it's going to make it out of planning. But yeah, it sounds pretty damn awesome to me. But yeah,
I remember when you told me about this back in June or whatever it was. I sat there and you're like, "Yeah, Xbox is making a Wu-Tang game," and I'm like, "Excuse me, what?" Like, I was just, out of all the things that Xbox you could tell me about games that Xbox are making, and you just drop they're making a Wu-Tang game. I was sitting there, I'm like, they're doing now? They're doing what? A Wu-Tang game? Like, what's going on? I was like, what are we talking like a Def Jam Fight for New York style game? Or are we talking something different? And you were like, I don't know, I'll try to get more, but it's a Wu-Tang game of some kind. And I sat there and was just like, that is weird. I didn't think, in 2021, thinking about the future of Xbox, talking about all the type of games they'd be making. That one game that would be coming from them from global publishing would essentially be a Wu-Tang game. That is
Yeah.
not something I had on my bingo card, you know?
Yep, indeed. I mean, I only know the name Wu Tang from the hip hop group.
Yeah, me too.
I have no knowledge of it beyond that, and I knew they were gunning for Wu Tang Clan to do the music. So I was wondering if it was like revolved around the actual band, like the game was about the band, but like it says if you look up Wu Tang on the interwebs. It says that Wu Tang originates from the martial arts films Enter the Dragon and the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, 1978. The gritty, distinctive sound of Enter the Wu Tang 36 Chambers created a blueprint for hardcore hip hop during the 1990s. I have no idea, if there's like real life Wu Tang Clan or something like that. Like, I'm super ignorant about history. I didn't take history at school. But I'm gonna look into it, and it does sound, it sounds really intriguing. I have no idea if it's about the game or if it's about ancient Wu Tang, a real life Wu Tang clan from history or something. Someone in chat might know better than me. If someone's more educated than me, but either way, it's martial arts. It's martial arts and stuff like that. Like Boom Slayer says, Wu God. It's a Wu Tang group lore. The game is based on their lore. I bet money. So and the Wu Tang already had a game back in the PS1 days. Says Q Tang Clan. So yeah, like, man, it's really intriguing. Like, if this is all going ahead, but that is a game that is planned in some capacity, and the fact that Shaolin, we've started seeing code names for Shaolin being thrown around, and Jeff Grubb had separate sourcing, that lends a lot of credence to that info, in my view. So I'm intrigued, and maybe we'll be hearing about that next year or the year after. But like I say, everyone, it's very, very early. And I'm going to queue up a load of Wu-Tang Clan on Spotify to listen to and do some research.
Very interesting. But then what about I believe Jeff also broke this. Microsoft is working with Mainframe on a MMO that is cloud-based or something as well.
Yeah, Jeff wrote that too. Mainframe. I think we mentioned it on the show, which I'd heard about. I didn't have any other details beyond the fact that they were looking to partner up with Mainframe on a game. I had no information beyond that. But Jeff added some extra stuff to the pot there. That it's a cloud-based game that scales across devices. It's designed to be like it's designed to sort of be like another MMO, a multiplayer game. Like, we're getting one from Mainframe, we're getting one from Elder Scrolls Online dev, and we're also getting one from IO Interactive. Apparently, there's a lot of service games coming out to mix into all the other stuff that's coming. And that Jeff said in his piece on VentureBeat, which you should definitely read, talks about how it's designed with scalability in mind and device agnosticity, I guess you could call it, where the game sort of detects what device you're using and gives you a gameplay experience based on that. So if, for example, if you are playing the game from a phone, it might give you crafting up front and center instead of like giving you like the full-blown game or something. Kind of along those lines. And it's about establishing best practices as they continue to negotiate with Hideo Kojima about building a cloud game with him as well. So a lot of, service multiplayer games going on. What do you think about this, Rand? Because I know you're not hugely into the idea of MMOs and online games and stuff.
At all. So yeah, it's not something that interests me whatsoever. I don't
even try it.
I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't try it. I'm just saying, like, the idea of an MMO is not something that excites me. I'd have to see what the game is first off, like what sort of setting it is, and how everything plays before But like just off the top, like you tell me like, oh, there's an MMO. That's when you talk about things where I don't like. Where you talked about like the Pokemon game, like free to play, Pokemon, a MOBA. Like you add on also MMO to that, and it's just not something that interests me whatsoever.
That's fair.
That's just my personal taste. So those are some newer things. The Wu-Tang stuff, the mainframe MMO. Anything else you want to tell people or leak or whatever? Because I know you have a lot there. Yeah, you have a lot there, but sometimes you hold back because it's not time or you don't want to take the thrill away from developers announcing their own stuff. So, is there anything else you want to say about anything else?
Nah, I think that's enough.
So basically, we're gonna have to get you drunk before you drop some more information.
Well, it's like it just kind of sucks if like I get everyone hyped for this game, and me and Jeff talk about things we've heard, and then like it doesn't happen. It kind of sucks then, right? But it does seem like this is happening. Like it seems like Project Dragon's happening. It seems like Shaolin's happening. It seemed like Typhoon, like I heard about Project Typhoon back in spring, and then we got the reveal of Contraband, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon, and I think, man, I just, no matter what kind of game you're into, Microsoft's gonna have something for you. I think, maybe like literally everything. They got 4X strategy, they got MOBA, they got MMOs, they got co-op games, they got Diablo likes, they got single player games, they got multiplayer games, they got racing games. Special Nick says they got a fighting game coming.
Well, yeah, Edward King wants to know if he says Jez is the Killer Instinct rumor from Nick True.
I have no information about Killer Instinct. Maybe Jeff knows. Jeff's in chat. Jeff, do we know anything about the Killer Instinct 2 rumors? Because I have no information about that. I do have some code names that I'm not able to attach projects to, like Project Belfry. No idea what Project Belfry is. A belfry is the tower in which bells are kept. Rand, I don't like. Does that give you any hints? A belfry is where, like in a church, you have a tower and the bells are in the tower. That's a belfry. Does that give you a hint, Rand?
No, but I mean, like, usually code names have nothing to, like, Project Holland was Fable. What does Fable got to do with Holland? Or was it Project Woodstock was Forza Horizon 5? Like, what does that got to do with Forza Horizon? Right? What was Halo Infinite's code name?
Is it Olympus?
Something like that.
Was it Olympus? I can't remember. I lose track of all these bloody code names.
I'm just saying. Normally, it's like there's because I know some people will be like, well, Project Belfry sounds like a Batman because Batman has, that's what it could be. So it's a Batman game, and Shaolin, Shaolin monks. That's definitely a Mortal Kombat game, right? Where it's like, no,
yeah,
I don't, But as for Killer Instinct, we know they want to do one. Phil's talked about it on Kind of Funny, that basically they want to do one, and it's just that people were busy, and that's exactly what me and Jez have been saying for a while now. Could they have found somebody? Potentially. But if they have, I would imagine we wouldn't hear about it for a couple years from now until they're ready to show it. So it's one of those things where it'll probably be years before we actually get any, verifiable information that it's actually true. Like, I want Killer Instinct to come back. I really like Killer Instinct from Double Helix and Iron Galaxy. I do think it's a shame that they weren't working on a sequel for the Series X and Game Pass. So hopefully we get one, maybe like 3 years, 4 years from now, 2024, 2025, Microsoft can drop Killer Instinct 2, which would be really cool. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. So, Brody Lion says, hey, Jez and Rand, love the show. Could Jez provide any updates on As Dusk Falls? It wasn't in Grub's 2023 games lineup. Could it be 2022?
I have no information about As Dusk Falls. To be honest, I barely even remember what it is. I've just isn't that a narrative adventure game like a walking sim or something?
I wouldn't call it a walking sim, but it definitely has a unique art style. That's the one that kind of looks like a comic. Still images and stuff. I think it could be a 2022 title. I mean, they revealed it in 2020 at their E3 show. So it definitely could be a game that comes out next year. But
I have no idea what kind of game that is. I have no idea what kind of game it is.
It's probably
what kind of game is it?
It's probably just a narrative adventure with a unique art style. But other than that, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
we only saw like a few minutes of it.
Drama.
It's what?
Yeah. It says interactive drama on the website, so
yeah, visual novel.
Yeah, okay. So it's similar to Quantic Dream games like Heavy Rain. Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Jason.
Oh man, Heavy Rain. Yeah, I don't know about that game.
I'm not.
Detroit Become Human
was
really good.
Rain.
Detroit Become Human was really good. So let's talk about really quickly, I guess. You know what? No, let's talk about this because it's a mistake that you don't normally see people make, and it was just really funny, although really disappointing. When Xbox teased Fable news this week, and then they were like, "Fable, no." Do you know what I'm talking about, Jez?
Yeah, that was strange. Do you want to tell people what happened for those who might not know?
Yeah, so for those that may not know, Xbox Global Publishing posted a tweet on, was it Sunday? I think it was Sunday. And they were like, "Hey, we got a big surprise coming tomorrow, essentially, and we just got to get our chickens in a row." And they had the chicken emoji, right? And people were like, "Wait a minute, chicken? That's Fable related." Right, and then official Xbox account, retweets it and replies to it, and everybody's like, "Is there Fable news coming? Is Xbox going to talk about Fable? What's going on here?" And then they literally replied to their own tweet, be like, "The Fable anniversary is already taken. This would be our Fable anniversary, but it's already taken." And then people were like, "Well, there's definitely Fable related. Like, what are they doing here? What do they mean?" And then later in the day, they deleted those tweets, and they're like, "Yes, sorry, there's nothing happening tomorrow, and there's no information about we are Playground Games Fable. Sorry." And I was just sitting there, and be like, "What the hell just happened? How do you go from teasing Fable news to Ben being like, 'No, there's nothing'? Like, did wires get crossed somewhere? Like, what happened?"
I have no insight into this whatsoever. I have no idea. It's so weird. It is so very strange. It did feel a bit like the tweets from that account have a different style slightly to some of Xbox's other Twitter accounts. So I wonder if that was just like a hardcore crossed wire. And then, like, the real people who lead the comms team were like, "What the hell are you doing? What are you doing?"
I don't know, but like the official Xbox Twitter account, they replied to it, and it was just like,
"Oh, really?"
Yeah, they did, and I was just like, "Well, something must be going on." And it was weird because of Global Publishing, who normally don't tweet, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, why would Global Publishing be hyping up Fable? Fable's a first-party franchise. We all, Playground Games is a first-party studio. Unless, the only thing that made sense to me, because Cognito called me up, and Cognito was like, Lord Cognito from ILP, one of the best, I say best Xbox podcasts, but he always gives me shit for saying that, because they're like, "We're not an Xbox podcast, Rand, we're a gaming podcast." I'm like, "Okay, Cog, okay." He calls me up, and he's like, what's going on? Is we getting Fable news tomorrow? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like, it's odd that the Global Publishing account is tweeting about it. I'm like, maybe there's a Fable remaster for 2 coming or something. That's the only thing that would, and they partnered with a third party to do it. I was just like, that's the only thing that makes sense. Or this was just like an announcement that somebody said, hey, we got something for the 18th or, a month from now, but they got the wrong date or something. But it was just, I don't know. You normally don't see mistakes like this. It's just kind of like,
It was interesting.
it was just basically like, we got some big surprising news coming. You could call it our Fable anniversary, and then the next tweet's like, "No, there's what you guys are idiots. There's nothing going on. Like, what are you guys talking about?" I was just like, "How does this happen?" Like, Nintendo doesn't make that mistakes like that. I haven't seen Sony make mistakes. Is this guy like what? I don't know.
Wait
Like,
a minute, Sony did make a mistake like that. They announced the acquisition of a studio.
oh well, that is true. Sony Japan did announce an acquisition of a studio months before it happened. That is true, but it was just weird, a very weird situation. So I figured
Funny.
we'd bring it up here. The other thing that happened this week was the Xbox mini fridge and how basically not many people could get one, Jez.
Yeah, the whole mini fridge debacle, and then we had scalpers all over eBay, scalping the hell out of that thing. Selling it for like I saw someone for $350, which is a lot of cash money for a mini fridge. Did you buy one? Did you manage to buy one?
No, I wasn't planning on getting one because I don't really have a need for it. But everybody I know who was up at that time, who was like, on the got their pages F5 ready to go, they weren't able to get one. It seemed like the scalpers were able to just pick them up and then put them on eBay for like double the price. And it was just like, this is interesting. Although they did say that there'll be more later and that there'll actually probably be more in stores that if you go to like Target and stuff like that, you'll be able to like go into the store and buy them. But
yeah, I was told that like going to stores and buying them is going to be a good bet. It sounds like they allocated a lot of stock to stores maybe, and not enough stock to online, maybe. Assuming a bit there, I guess. But it does sound like if you do really want one, you'll be able to get one in stores fairly easily if you are so inclined. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Like it's just scalpers are just a bloody plague, man. Like whether you're trying to buy like a PlayStation or an Xbox or whatever, it's just, or a graphics card even. It's just really, really hard right now. Chip shortage, global supply chain issues, lorry driver shortage, the economy being all screwed up because of waves of lockdowns across the world. It's a perfect storm of first world problems.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I can't get a 3090. Yeah. Stuff like that. And I don't know. Every day I see a new article saying this company says the chip shortage will be over by the end of 2022, and then Intel says the chip shortage might run into 2023, and it's just like, wow, is this the world we live in now, where no one can buy the graphics cards? Think of the children, man.
I know.
Think of the children
bereft
of their graphics cards, unable to play Roblox at 300 frames per second. Think of the children.
Beaner8127 says in Super Chat, Jez, if Fable hits, do we see the studio head of Playground getting a booty-like promotion? They always deliver quality and polish.
You mean Playground? That's an interesting proposition because that often happens in big publishers where, like, for example, Vince, I'm going to pronounce his surname wrong, Vince Zampella?
Mm-hmm.
From Apex Legends Titanfall fame. He basically saved EA from being terrible single-handedly. Obviously, he's known for the creation of
Call of
Modern
Duty.
Warfare.
Yeah, the Modern Warfare, yeah.
Call of Duty, Modern Warfare. And he went over to EA after Activision screwed him over. And then he made Apex Legends and Titanfall, which turned out to be pretty damn good. So, he single-handedly saved EA, and then they promoted him to basically, what is he, the leader of everything? Like the leader of all Crave now or something? I don't know. He got a big promotion. So it does beg the question, if the people running Playground Games, if they can deliver if they can become like a multi-franchise studio and start delivering a lot of good stuff, it does sort of beg the question: could the people making this stuff happen and delivering the goods, could they be the kind of person to actually take over a whole bunch of studios and run them as well? It's an interesting thing to think about, and I think it probably could happen, because Matt Booty by himself has quite a lot on, I would say, personally.
Yeah.
So maybe could divide the workload, make it easier to keep an eye on quality and stuff like that. It's interesting to think about.
It is. Artemis says, speaking of announcements that's coming on the Xbox Anniversary Show, what games do you think will be shown? Crossfire X, Gunk, Bright Memory, or more BC games will there? So this is a good segue. We can talk about the anniversary stream details, which Microsoft did announce on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
There will be an anniversary stream on November 15th. I believe 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, I think, is the stream details. And they'll be looking back at the 20 years of Xbox. And Matt Booty did set expectations by saying, hey, this is about Xbox and Halo, and there will be no new game announcements. So Compulsion's game that's unannounced, not going to be there. Hideo Kojima's game, which I believe Jeff said in his article was still in negotiations, not going to be there. And Jeff says he doesn't think it's going to be at the VGAs either. So any unannounced game, not going to be announced at the show. So what could we potentially see, Jez? What do you think Microsoft has in store for the 20th? Is Artemis right? Could we see a trailer for the Gunk or Bright or Crossfire X, or are they going to focus on other things?
I have no idea. It's kind of weird how I have really great information on some things, but next to nothing on other things. I have no inkling or knowledge about what they could show. So all of this from me, just basically speculation. I did hear, for example, that Hellblade was going to be shown this year, before the end of the year. But the common assumption there is that they're going to be shown at the Game Awards, because that's where it was shown last time, and it kind of makes sense, right? If you are an audience member of the Game Awards, and you might expect to see the next showcase for that at the next Game Awards, maybe. So it makes a whole bunch of sense there. But could Microsoft show other things? Could they show gameplay for Contraband, for example? Could they show a gameplay trailer for some of the other games that we know are coming? I want to believe yes. I mean, they did only just they did say we're not going to show off any new games.
Mm-hmm.
But does that necessarily mean they're not going to show off, I don't know, anything from existing games we know about? I don't know.
I mean, what do you think? They didn't put the kibosh on that. All they said was no new game announcements. Now, I don't think that rules out, say, a new trailer for Avowed, for example, right? Because when I think about, okay, we got the 20 years of Xbox. Yeah, you need to do a retrospective, a look back, which is why I think they're going to announce some backwards compatibility titles. If you're going to celebrate 20 years of Xbox and talk about the OG and talk about 360, announce some new backwards compatibility games. People love that. So I think that is something we'll see happen. But then, I also think you also need to look forward at the next 20 years. And maybe they just run the trailers that have been out there for forever for all these rest of these games that are announced or what have you. But it'd be cool to see something new from Avowed, or something new from Hellblade 2. I don't necessarily know if that's gonna happen, because I think this was gonna be strictly focused on a look back and a celebration of Xbox, and then also Halo, because Halo's tied to it. So ever since Jeff Keighley's Gamescom show, where they revealed the console and the controller and the release date. People have been wondering where's the campaign gameplay, where's the new campaign trailer. Like at E3, we just got a scene, with Master Chief meets basically Cortana's replacement. And we got some Halo Infinite multiplayer stuff. We've all played the flights. So a lot of people are wondering, like, where is the campaign deep dive gameplay at? And I think this is where you're going to see it, right? We're only a couple weeks away. Wouldn't make any sense to drop it in between now and then. So as I think I have a thing on Twitter, like I said, save this tweet. We'll see Halo Infinite campaign gameplay trailer deep dive at the anniversary, and I think that's 100% going to happen. There'll be probably new trailer, new deep dive, and there's also because I also think there might be a surprise regarding Halo in that sense. Like, what if they end the whole anniversary stream by being like, and Halo multiplayer is now launched, and you can play the multiplayer right now. And surprise for you fans, like not necessarily maybe the full multiplayer, but like what if they did some sort of open beta, like just like, hey, you can play Halo Infinite for the next week or something along those lines, right? Another flight before the end with everything potentially, because I think that would be cool for the fans, like. Here's another look at Halo. Here's the campaign gameplay trailer. Here's what you're going to get on December 8th. And you know what? You can play it right now. End the stream, log on to Xbox Live, and play some Halo multiplayer for the next week or next 2 weeks while you wait for the official launch of the full game on the 8th. You think that's something they could do?
Yeah, why not? I think that's an interesting idea you put forward there, Rand.
Yeah, I mean, I think why not? Like, why not do that? I mean, obviously they probably wouldn't be able to take any information from it since it's so close to release. But it would just be like it's a celebration of Halo. We know the game's coming, less than a month away. But like, here you don't have to be an insider. Anybody that wants to play can play it. Go ahead and play, right? I don't know. It's just. I try to think like, oh, there's got to be some surprise, something for a 20th anniversary. It's a big moment. It's a big moment for Xbox. And since it seems to be tied to the Halo and the history of Xbox, like, yeah, just be like, multiplayer is open for a week. Anybody can play. Go ahead and play. There's no time restrictions on multiplayer matchmaking. Everything's there. Go have fun for a week. And then come back on the 8th when the campaign and everything of the multiplayer drops. Like, I think that's something that maybe is possible.
That makes sense to me.
But I don't know. There's just a part of me that is just kind of like, does it make sense to drop a gunk trailer during the Xbox 20th anniversary stream? You know what I mean? They're not owned by Xbox. Sure, it's a game that's exclusive and coming out, but it's like, is that the right venue to just debut a trailer for gunk? I don't know if it is, really. Like, personally, if I was in charge, and I don't know how much the pandemic affects everything, but like I'd be like, no, this needs to more focus on first party, not like indie games that we partnered with. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe. There's like loads of different ways they could take it, I guess. It's I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah,
but I ultimately have just no idea. You're better at predicting these kind of things than me.
Yeah, this is something I was thinking about.
You think more like I don't know, like you're in the head. You're in the head, Rand.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So we also finally got a look at the Grand Theft Auto trilogy and what it looks like, brand new, right? The new graphics and all that stuff. And it's interesting because Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is coming to Game Pass on day one, while I believe Grand Theft Auto 3 is coming to PlayStation Now on day one. which means
Mm.
is what's up with Vice City. But what do you think about that? What do you think about the San Andreas Definitive Edition coming to Game Pass on day one, and this whole Grand Theft Auto stuff?
It's interesting that like Microsoft got the one that's sort of, I don't know, more sort of celebrated, I guess you could say. Um, is that fair to call it celebrated? I don't know. But like the GameSpot put out a poll, right? And they were like, which game are you most interested in? And it was San Andreas, and that's the one Microsoft got, right?
People are saying Grand Theft Auto 3 is not hitting PS Now day one. It's coming in December. So
that's interesting.
yeah, so it comes into. So I think the game's released November 11th, and San Andreas is hitting Game Pass on day one, and Grand Theft Auto 3 is hitting it on December 7th, so a month later.
Wonder why they're doing it like that. But I guess it just boils down to like how much Sony and Microsoft are budgeting for these kind of things, because I guess they have very different ideas and opinions about where the value lies there, I guess, maybe. Or maybe Microsoft just has more to throw around and stuff. Do you think like San Andreas will realistically, I don't know, move the needle for Game Pass? Like, it's an old game, you know.
Yeah,
I am not someone who has nostalgia for Grand Theft Auto. I'll just put that out there right now.
It's
So,
an old
like,
game. I'm not really sure. I mean, I think people who are subscribed will probably like it. I'm not sure how many people will like subscribe to Game Pass. But then it's like it's just an extra thing because you're gonna have Forza Horizon a few days before that. You're gonna have Halo campaign a little bit after that. It's just another reason to keep people subscribed. And the only thing I may like when I say maybe, it's because maybe there will be some people who want to check out the improved graphics and gameplay that they say they're offering, and there is nostalgia for Grand Theft Auto, right? So yeah, I mean maybe there is a chance that it could be something big. I don't know how big. I don't think on the bigger level of Back 4 Blood, which I don't know if you saw, Jez. Even though me and you both beat Back 4 Blood, we didn't love it.
Beat it.
I beat it, but like we didn't love it. It's good, but it's not great. It does some things better than Left 4 Dead, but then some things worse. It's kind of just a solid game. It made its way all the way up to the fourth most played game on Xbox, only behind Warzone, Apex Legends, and Fortnite.
That is crazy. Beat Minecraft?
Yeah, it was the fourth most played game.
Wow.
Yeah, ahead of Grand Theft Auto even. And I think that's just
I don't get that.
because
I don't understand that.
It's easy because I think Xbox Game Pass, when you have a game that's highly sought after, right? Even though you can maybe argue Back 4 Blood isn't the most sought after, but like big AAA game, even though some people say it's not, on the level of Outriders, it's just like it's also co-op, so you're bringing your buddies along. I think like when you put a game like that in Game Pass day one, it almost acts like a free-to-play title because now you have this game is now available to 20 plus odd million people, and those people are just going to download it and try it out. And so many people were downloading and trying it out because you could bring 3 other people with you that it just raced up the charts. I mean, hell, like Marvel Avengers got all the way up to like 12 after a year just from putting it in Game Pass. So it's like you've seen how putting a game in Game Pass can boost it all the way up. Back 4 Blood hit number 4. I think Outriders hit number 4. I don't know. It seems like the Game Pass audience is super engaged. And if it's a game they're looking forward to, they'll go and they'll play it. Now, I don't know how long they'll play it for, but it definitely seems like enough people are playing it to the point where it's competing with the big dogs, which is something really interesting. And I doubt Back 4 Blood would have reached those heights if it wasn't for Game Pass. So I just thought that was really interesting. Swan says, "Quit Flex Seal Al Thor. Let Jez leak." Hey, sometimes I gotta protect Jez from Jez, okay? Sometimes I gotta protect him from himself. Because sometimes he'll be getting on here and he'll be like, "I'm just gonna leak everything." And I'm like, "Jez, calm down. Hold on a second, buddy. You really want to do that? We're gonna know all. We're gonna know literally every Xbox game that comes out before Xbox even announces it. If you have your way, you got to keep some surprises.
I don't know that much, but yeah. I'm just excited, man. There's just so much cool stuff I'm looking forward to.
Speaking of new stuff, you finally have more SSD options, and I'm gonna be interested to hear your thoughts on this because it's quite expensive. So, as we know, you can currently get a 1 terabyte expansion card from Seagate. They're the only ones making it right now. It's $220. I have one. I don't know if you have one.
I do, but I got mine from Microsoft, so I cheated.
So you cheated. Okay, I had to buy mine. So there are new SSD options and sizes and pricing for this fall. So there's a 512 gigabyte cartridge for $140 and a 2 terabyte cartridge for $400, which is more than the entire Xbox Series S, $100 more than the Series S, and $100 less than the Series X. So this 2 terabyte card is almost as much as the console itself.
That is...
What do you think of the storage and range of pricing on these things?
Well, we know why it costs a lot. And it costs a lot because they chose CF Express as their speed standard. CF Express is patented and owned by a consortium, I believe. Maybe. I'm not actually exactly sure off the top of my head who owns CF Express. But CF Express is the standard they use. And CF Express is it's like an interface for NVMe. Storage solutions, and it costs a lot of money. Like if you want to license it, the CF Express standard, you have to pay the money. So Seagate has to pay the money to use that standard, and I guess like as the storage goes up, then so does the prices. So it's the price of the technology, and like I often hear people say, I often get people in my DMs saying like, "Oh, Jez, when are they gonna let up with the exclusivity so someone else can make a cheaper version?" And I'm sitting there thinking like, would it actually be cheaper? Because at the end of the day, it's still gonna be CF Express. Like unless someone comes up with a new technology that just lets you, I don't know, dock an NVMe drive. Because like some people have tried to do that with homebrew technology and stuff, where they can like interface a regular NVMe M2 drive into the slot using some kind of a custom-made adapter, I think. Some people have tried to do that, and I think it's unverified how well it worked or not. But that's why it's expensive, because of the standard. So on the one hand, it sucks that it's $400, but on the other hand, that's the problem with, the standard. Like, how much does a 2 terabyte M2 drive cost? That meets Sony spec. It's not going to be much cheaper, is it? I don't think. Like, I've got an M2 drive in my laptop that I install games on, and I paid a couple of $100 for that. I think that was not cheap either.
Yeah, they're but it's just the stickers. It's like sticker shock though. You see 2 terabyte you see this little cartridge, super small by the way, right? And you look at it and you're like, this thing's $400, and it's almost costs as much as my huge Xbox Series X. So there's a little disconnect on pricing there. Like I think I said in my video, I couldn't possibly recommend a 2 terabyte for anybody really, unless you got money to blow, unless you're just sitting on thousands of dollars and you're playing hundreds of games and you don't want to have to deal with deleting them or whatever, and you're just like, $400 is nothing, dude. Like I wipe my ass with that, Like yeah, whatever.
You mean like if you're a YouTuber, you mean?
I'm not getting the 2 terabyte thing for $400. I don't wipe my ass with that. Sorry, Jez. I'm sorry to break your myth that I'm Randall Millions for my YouTube, right?
Randall Millions.
So even like I look at that. I'm like, I bought the 1 terabyte one, right? So I was just like, okay, $220 is like, yeah, a little bit more expensive than I would normally, but it's like, all right, I need the extra storage, right? Because what's on board the Series X isn't enough for me. And yeah, I almost have both of them full, but I'm not paying another $400 for 2 terabyte. And it's not even like I can use both the 1 terabyte and the 2 terabyte at once. It's not like how you can with the external drives plug in up to 3, right? There's not 2 slots for it. So it's like I could have the 1 terabyte in there, but then then if I want the 2 terabyte in there, I got to lose everything from the 1 terabyte. So I just kind of like, it doesn't seem worth it to me. I don't know if it's worth it for anybody in chat. Chat, let us know. Are you interested in buying any of these? Which one would you prefer? The 512, the 1 terabyte, or the 2 terabyte? Even the 512, like, I don't know, it seems a little bit, doesn't it seem like a little bit overpriced for what it is? Like, it's half of the one, then the one's 220, and that would be like 110, but it's 140. The prices seem like it's just a little high, and it's just like, I would just recommend people buy a cheap hard drive, an external hard drive, plug it in, and just shuttle content back and forth if you really need to.
Yeah, funny you mention that, Rand, because I actually am reviewing another product that Seagate announced this week, which is exactly that. Seagate Game Drive for Xbox SSD, high-speed add-on storage for your Xbox, and it's just a standard USB drive, but it has a RGB light on it now. So that's cool. It has an RGB light. But I think like if I didn't have, if I wasn't lucky enough to just get a drive from Microsoft because it came with the review unit, I would probably not buy one of the cards because they are mad expensive. But I'm also lucky as someone who lives somewhere that has uncapped internet. So my storage is constantly full. But I just often delete and re-download games. Like I didn't have Call of Duty installed, and I mentioned earlier I downloaded Call of Duty because I wanted to test that game out, and then like I just deleted it again after I was done because to me it's no big deal to download a game and delete it because I have uncapped internet. But I know that a lot of places around the world and in America even that data caps are a thing still. So I think the best option really is to get one of these not NVMe. These USB 3.0 SSD options, but it also lends does lend some, I don't know, weight to the idea that Microsoft should consider getting in the next Xbox, maybe upgrading to USB-C. I can't see them going all the way up to Thunderbolt, but well, USB-C, I don't know if USB-C actually gets faster than USB-A 3.1 anyway. I think it's just a different shape, isn't it? But like, I don't know. Could they go to Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt 3, and then let you have like a Thunderbolt 3 external hard drive? Because even that would be cheaper than these CF Express cards, I think. But that would increase the cost of the Xbox because Thunderbolt 3 is also a patented technology that Microsoft would have to license. So it's just the sort of inflationary tech, isn't it? When you get into all these patented standards and stuff like that. And I suppose you could argue, man, maybe Microsoft should just develop its own proprietary like storage solution or something. Some people in chat are saying USB-C is faster than USB-A 3.1. Okay, well, there you go. They could go to like USB or whatever, or even Thunderbolt. Okay, someone else is saying it's just a different shape. Okay, like I don't know off the top of my head like what the difference between USB-C and USB-A 3.1 is, or 3.2 or whatever. Just off the top of my head, because that's more. I have someone else to deal with that stuff, Rand. But I know Thunderbolt is faster. At least Thunderbolt's faster. So yeah, I don't know.
Aaron, who's been a member,
USB. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was to say, Aaron, who's been a member for 13 months, says. He says the thing is the 1 terabyte's at $220, but the 2 terabyte is $400, so it's a better value to get the 2 terabyte.
Yeah. Okay.
But $400 is a lot to spend, especially just on a storage expansion that you may or may not need when you can spend less. I get like 1 terabyte's $220, and double that would be $440, but it's not. It's $400. So like 2 terabytes is a better value in comparison. But you know, as some people would say, like, why do you need it anyways? You can just delete games. Like, do you need all those 2 terabytes worth of games stored on your hard drive space? Why don't you just delete stuff you're not really playing, or have a 4 terabyte, spend $100 for a 4 terabyte external hard drive and just keep games there, and when you want to play them, move them over. So I guess it just really depends on people's, what their money situation is and what their memory situation is. But I play a lot of games. I have a lot of games installed, and even I am not going to spend $400 on a 2 terabyte card. So
even with your YouTube millions?
Yeah, even with my millions, I'm not spending $400. Should tell you all you need to know.
Cheapskate.
See, I'm not cool enough to get a free thing from Microsoft like Jez is. Jez is like, whatever, just Microsoft in the mail. I'll just open up one day and there'll be a 2 terabyte card for me to review. You know, Jez is the lucky one. So Jacqueline, he says,
God for this.
Thank God for that. Yeah. He says in Super Chat, Rand, you said you'd like to see Xbox at 30 studios. What 7 studios would you personally want? You too, Jez. So that's an interesting segue we might as well use to talk about Phil's comments about acquisitions, which, oh man, acquisitions, here we go again. Like, it seems like it never ends. It never, ever ends because people speculate. Because, yeah, people speculate about it, and now you got Phil Spencer talking about it, so of course it gets, people speaking about it again, right? So, what did Phil say? Well, let's have to read what he said. He basically said that they're always out there looking for people who we think would be a good match and teams that would be a good match with our strategy. So we're definitely not done. So Phil basically saying, like, yeah, we're not where we want to be with our number of studios, right? They're always looking, as me and Jez have always said. They're always looking, they're always talking to people. And he goes on to say there's no quota, there's no kind of timeline where I have to go acquire studios by a certain time. But if we find a studio and we have a good fit, we share what we are trying to go do and what they're trying to go do, and if we feel we can both get together, absolutely. So he's saying that they don't have to hit a number. He's saying that they don't have a timeline where it's like, you need to have, if you don't have these studios by 2024, that's it. You only got to 2024. No time after that. So, I mean, this is really nothing new for, you've listened to the show. Any of us have been talking about. So I guess, what do you think, Jez? Jakester says, like, any acquisition announcements at the anniversary event. Which with Phil talking about this again and stuff. So
I think, like, part of me wonders, like, if they say that to, like, try and just signal that people who want to be acquired can reach out, maybe. Because sometimes I do that, right? Sometimes, like, if I've got some information or something, sometimes I'll sort of tease it on Twitter in such a way that only people who know would reply. So like I mentioned the Wu-Tang Clan thing like a few months ago, right? I was wondering if anyone would reach out with some information after I tweeted that. So like I wonder if like when they say this stuff, I mean, if they're signaling to devs, reach out if you've got a plan, if you're looking for acquisition, or if you're looking for funding or whatever, reach out. So I do wonder if that's why sometimes they say things like that. Again, that's speculation. Don't have any information on that. That's conspiracy. My personal conspiracy theory. But I haven't heard they're acquiring anyone anytime soon. But then again, I very rarely hear about acquisitions until like everyone else. It's acquisition, like the secrecy around acquisitions is hardcore compared to some of the other stuff that I get information on. So I don't know. But what was the chap's question? He asked what.
Well, I just threw out just a number, like 30 studios and there are 23. So what 7 studios would I personally want? And we've talked about it enough. Like Jez wants Capcom because he wants Monster Hunter, right?
Forever.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of studios that Xbox could go after. I mean, you wrote an article, what was it, that their next person should be a mobile developer, right? Or a mobile publisher to help them reach their 3 billion gamer goal or whatever, right?
Yeah. I think they should look at that, but I know that's not the popular choice by any means. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've talked about wanting to increase their presence in Japan. They own Tango Gameworks, so maybe they invest in a studio there. Maybe they buy a studio there. They add more Japanese content. As we all know, the Japanese market is their fastest growing market, and there's ways you can increase that. You need Japanese content, so maybe they focus there. Phil's talked about his desire to have kid-friendly games, so I'm sure there's studios out there that they're talking to get more broadly demographic style experiences. I think it really hurt Xbox that they missed out on Fall Guys. Game Pass needs stuff for younger audiences so they can bug their parents for Game Pass subscriptions, which is something I don't really think is going on right now, but that's something I'm sure they're thinking about. So, I'm sure that's not something that interests anybody here listening to the show. Like, kid-friendly stuff, like, we don't want that. We're core gamers. We're hardcore. And it's like, yeah, I get that, but like, they're also a business and they need to hit all these targets. So that's something you got to think of. And then, as Jeff Grubb said in his article, like, and I kind of theorized when we talked about Perfect Dark and Crystal Dynamics, Matt Booty in his interview with Kind of Funny said that they jumped at the chance to work with them. Like, Crystal Dynamics, they're going to see how they work out working with Initiative on Perfect Dark. And if everything flows well, everything's good, maybe Square Enix just doesn't have any need for them anymore. Or they don't want to be like, you know what, we don't know what to do with Square Enix. We'll sell them to you. And here's the Tomb Raider IP, because that's another game they're working on. So just like with Sony, because Sony tends to buy studios that they work with for a while, Housemarque and Bluepoint. And Xbox has done that. I mean, obviously they bought Playground and they bought Undead Labs because they worked with them on Forza Horizon and State of Decay. And they could do it again with Crystal Dynamics. And then you also have Project Dragon, IO Interactive. That is a studio I would love to come see under Xbox's umbrella. Hell, that's another. They can go buy the Hitman IP from Square. Like, you go to Square Enix, you get Crystal Dynamics, you get Eidos Montreal, grab the Tomb Raider IP, get the Hitman IP, grab IO Interactive, right? Give Hitman back to them. Like, that would be super exciting for me personally. They're also, working on Contraband with Avalanche. So, like, you have these these studios that they're working with, and if it all goes smoothly and they have a vision of the future together and they feel like it would work out better with Xbox, working together, it's something that could happen. So, like, I think I'm of the opinion that I think Crystal Dynamics joining Xbox is going to happen in the future, and I wouldn't be surprised about IO. And then, of course, but for some people, that's not good enough though, Jez, because it's not a publisher. Like, when you go from Bethesda to IO Interactive, it's not sexy, So there's still the people that want Xbox to go out and like, hey, what about Sega, right? It fills the PC market with, their PC developers. But then you also have the Japanese flavor with, Atlas and Persona, Yakuza, right? So maybe that fits, a target for Xbox. Or what about, you said Capcom. What about Ubisoft? What about Warner Brothers Games? And I still think when you look at the publishers out there for the type of money you'd have to spend, I know people were all up and be like, Take-Two, which would be a lot of money for Grand Theft Auto. But when I look at the publishers that are out there, I feel like the one that fits, that you could slot in and it would fit a lot of Xbox's needs, is Warner Brothers Games. Like, I feel like if they ended up buying them, right? Which we know they were interested in before the whole Discovery merger thing. Like Xbox was interested, Take-Two was interested, EA, right? Because they have a bunch of great studios. Suicide Squad looks really cool. Gotham Knights looks great. We don't know what Monolith is working on. You know, NetherRealm always kills it with Mortal Kombat. Like, if you were somehow able to get Warner Brothers games and figure out the licensing agreement, you could have your fighting game developer, you could have your superhero developer, which, you know, everybody, after the Wolverine announcement from PlayStation, everybody was like, Xbox needs their own superhero games. They need it. Well, I mean, there's your superhero games. You know, there's your kid-friendly studio with Traveler's Tale. You know, they could make a Minecraft Lego-ish game, right? Or something else. They also have
Lego game.
Well,
No.
I'm just saying, like, they could make something like that. They make the Lego games, so they make kid games, right? Monolith, whatever they're working on. But then also, you got to realize that Warner Brothers Games is 11 studios. But you don't really hear about some of the other ones, like some of the other Warner Brothers, like, is it Warner Brothers Chicago, or is it like Warner Brothers Montreal? Like, there's a few of those studios that are strictly just support studios. And those are in rare, those are rare these days. A lot of the support studios that Xbox purchased, or that Xbox used for like Gears and for Halo, they were purchased recently, either by Tencent or Embracer. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I think Warner Brothers like fits everything Xbox really needs. You get your support studios, which are, they're not a lot of, right? You get your superhero developers if you want to continue that and get like an exclusive license. You got your fighting game. You got your kid-friendly stuff. Like, they fit a lot of what Xbox needs. But the question always comes down to money and licensing. So that's the one I want. Like, there was a time I would have said Ubisoft, but like lately Ubisoft's games are all basically the same. You know, and it's kind of like, and I think a lot of people are down on Ubisoft now. Some people say Square Enix, but it's like, I almost think you a better chance going after their Western publishing arm than go after the Japanese one.
There's no way they're getting the Japanese one.
Yeah.
Did you see recently that they said Final Fantasy 14's now the most profitable Final Fantasy ever?
I mean, I'm not surprised that it's MMO, right? Constant engagement, constant monetization. You know, so
they turned that around so hard.
Yeah, they did, and kudos to them. Kudos to them. I mean, they turned it around. They spent a lot of money and time on it, and they deserve the success that they've seen. So, Gecko Gamer says, I see Avalanche and Rebellion are using Game Pass as sort of free-to-play model with paid DLC. Do you have an opinion or feelings about that? Not really. It just, I mean, you want your game to be played as many people as possible, and when you release DLC with as many people as playing it, yeah, I mean, it's a good model. Like, you have, before, if you had just people buy the game and then you spend the DLC, there wouldn't be that many people who would buy the DLC. But if you have millions of people playing because of Game Pass, then your chances of selling DLC are higher. So, I mean, it's a good strategy.
Is that what Rebellion's doing? Did he say?
Well, yeah, I think like wasn't Sniper Elite 4 on Game Pass, and they had like a bunch of DLCs, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's interesting because, you know, some of those sort of AA kind of devs, and I suppose you could call Rebellion the AA dev. But some of those AA devs, like I spoke to them like around when Game Pass had started. There was a hell of a lot of skepticism about what Game Pass could do for those kind of AA sort of games, and I think there still is for some types of games. Like I'm not sure if single player games see the same kind of uplift that multiplayer games do. Like I don't think like a game that's sort of like we talked about how like we don't, you know, we're a bit iffy about Back 4 Blood's quote unquote quality maybe in some ways, but like the equivalent single player game in terms of quality I don't think would do as well as Back 4 Blood is doing, Because like when you factor in playing with friends, that changes the proposition for a game in a big way. You know. But single player games, like that's why single player games are in this sort of weird place right now, where a lot of AAA publishers don't even want to touch them, you know. And you know, we get Splinter Cell mobile games and free to play games, but it's only been this week, after how many years, that we've heard rumors that finally they might have greenlit a new actual mainline Splinter Cell.
Well, here's the thing about that. I'm not going to believe that until I see it announced. And even then, I'm not going to believe it until I'm actually playing it because, I mean, where the hell is Beyond Good and Evil 2? Does that game even exist anymore? Is anybody even working on Beyond Good and Evil 2? You know, people waited forever for a Beyond Good and Evil sequel, and then they finally announced it, and I think we saw it at 2 E3s, and it definitely seems like that game just went off to die, and they're not even bothering anymore. So here's my thing about Splinter Cell. I have two opinions about it. One, I'm not going to believe it until it actually is announced and I see it, because I have a friend who tested 2 different Splinter Cell games at Ubisoft, or at least one. So it's like there's been other Splinter Cell games in development that end up getting canceled, right? So I understand like this comes from Tom Henderson, who's a notorious leaker, usually right about a lot of things, right? Especially when it comes to Battlefield and Call of Duty. So he's saying that there is a new Splinter Cell that's recently been greenlit. So, okay, great, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll stay greenlit and they won't cancel it. Because like I think the problem Ubisoft's been having forever is trying to figure out how does the Splinter Cell formula fit into the formula of all of our other games. And quite frankly, it doesn't. So that leads me to my next point. And I think Paris tweeted this out. Do I even want to see what a modern Splinter Cell would look like from Ubisoft right now? Do I really want Sam Fisher to come back in an open world that basically just looks like Far Cry or Ghost Recon, or it's just like a Ghost Recon game but you play as Sam Fisher and it's just, hey, here's a base to take down, okay, move on to the next base with like tiered loot, right? Like Splinter Cell wouldn't work like that. Like tiered loot doesn't work in Splinter Cell. I'm sorry. Like you have your silenced pistol. What does your starter silenced pistol do? 2 damage, while the next one you find has like green flare on it, does 5 damage. Like it doesn't fit into whatever formula that Ubisoft's using for their games right now. It just doesn't.
And then you can get like glowing skins for your level 1 pistol,
right? So like you couldn't
if you spend some Ubisoft bucks.
So you can't do the open world formula because it just doesn't work in a Splinter Cell game, and the loot system just doesn't work in a Splinter Cell game, right? Now, granted, the multiplayer has been excellent. Everybody likes Spies vs. Mercs and wants it to come back. But people also want the single-player campaign. So, I'm not sure modern-day Ubisoft can make a really good Splinter Cell game anymore. So,
I'm not sure they can make a really good game, period.
I mean, maybe they can. I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe it's just like, hey, guys, here's an island. We're dropping 50 spies in. And guess what? There's 50 mercs on the ground. It's Battle Royale Splinter Cell style. Right? So we'll see. We'll see. I want Splinter Cell to come back.
Jinxed it now.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. You've jinxed it.
Probably. I want Splinter Cell to come back. I really, really do. So Jeff in the chat in chat says, so my understanding is they're going to do a Splinter Cell like the new Hitman, and that could work. Okay, that is a good idea. If they could do it like the new Hitman games, that would be fantastic. I'd be down for that. You have like one level where you could go through with many different ways to infiltrate, different targets to go after, different ways to assassinate, and move on to the next. I'd be down for that. It just cannot be open world, and it can't have any tiered loot. Like Jeff is giving me hope. I'm hopeful again. Jeff said earlier in the chat that I have to care about his leaks because I said I don't care about MMO stuff, so I was like downplaying Jeff's mainframe thing. But Jeff, you've given me hope again. Thank you for this. Thank you. I didn't really think about that.
I just want Jeff to just sort of just tell you that it's, by the way, it's also a free-to-play MOBA.
Oh my god!
Can you imagine it's free to play?
Well,
No?
actually,
No?
I actually do want the multiplayer portion. I do want Spies and Mercs to go along with it because Spies and Mercs is fun. So I want the Splinter Cell multiplayer to be with
I have
this.
no idea what that is. What is that?
You never played Spies
Mercs?
versus Mercs? So like, it was
I have
basically
barely played Splinter Cell at all.
so basically you had 4 spies that played like Sam Fisher, and then you had 4 Mercs, basically heavy armor, machine guns, and they were in first person. So the spies were in third person, move like Sam Fisher. You could be up in the rafters in the darkness, and the Mercs were first person on the ground with guns and stuff. And you know, the spies would have to hack stuff or steal stuff, and then the Mercs would be looking out for them. It's really, really fun.
Interesting.
Jeff goes on to say, Hitman, but more military stuff and more Ubisoft service stuff. Now I'm getting disappointed again. It could go bad, but I'm also hopeful. Okay, well, I guess you gave me hope there for like 2 minutes, Jeff. I appreciate it. Now we're back to reality, and I realize it's Ubisoft. So, anyways, what else we got here? Oh, God of War is coming to PC, Jez.
Yeah. God of War PC.
God of War PC. Imagine that.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought
well,
that was happening? That's
yeah,
an interesting thing that's happening.
No surprise.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, I'm happy for my PC dudes. Like, I think people obviously realize that Sony's very much going to be, we're putting stuff on PC. Pretty much everything, is going to be there at some point. It's interesting though. When you look at fans' reactions, because
what's that? Enlighten us.
Well, okay, because at first it was like years ago. Sony would never do it, right? Never put their games on PC because they know the value of an exclusive, and the exclusives are what sell the consoles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then like they started to put their games on PC, like Death Stranding, Detroit Become Human, but people made excuses for those. Oh, well, Sony doesn't own Kojima, blah, 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 blah. Like, even whatever. Like, it was all these excuses. And then Horizon came, and it was just started it, which, whatever. Like, I took a lot of shit for that when I said Horizon was coming to PC. And I think I also said, like, their plan was for putting all their games on PC. And then Days Gone got announced and came out, and then Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy announced and coming out, and then now God of War, and eventually Ghost of Tsushima, pretty much all their games, maybe even Spider-Man at some point. But now the talking point, Jez, isn't that like, even though these same people were saying that they never would do it, now they're like, this is the best way to do it. Sony's being smart because they get people to buy it on the PlayStation for full price, and then they can sell it again on the PC for full price. Sony's smart, right? Which is like, okay, dude, like you said 2 years ago that they never would do it. Now you're like, this is the best way to do it. So I'm like, so you're advocating for buying the game twice instead of the way that Microsoft does it, where it's a simultaneous release, and usually if you buy Halo Infinite, you're going to be able to play Halo Infinite anywhere on your Xbox or your PC. You only have to pay for it once. Where Sony is basically like, no, we don't want that. Like, you're going to have to pay us again if you want to play it on PC, right? So
when you said that, I was just, have you seen that episode of South Park where the dude's roughing his nipples?
Yeah.
Oh man. That's what I thought when you were saying that.
I think
no, you're gonna have to do that again.
I think what ends up happening, Jez, is I think what Sony's ending up going to do is they're going to end up releasing their games day and date on PC at some point. I'm not saying it's anytime soon. I'm not saying it's next week. I'm not saying it's next year or the year after. I think before the end of this generation, they start flirting with day and date releases on PC.
Yeah, I think so. Especially in an age where suppliers can't meet demand. You kind of bottlenecking your software sales there, which is where your margins are. I admit, Rand, I am no businessman, but it kind of says to me like if your install base is bottlenecked by the chip shortage and your margins is software, putting your software on everything simultaneously probably gonna give you better returns on your investment in a short space of time. And some people might say, yeah, well, think of the long term. When has Sony ever thought of the long term? They're not that kind of company. So, yeah, I think I said it last week actually, that I do see Sony eventually one for one copying Microsoft's strategy. Game Pass, PC games, the works. I do see that happening eventually. Because the margins are just better. It's that's just the way it is. We're moving towards the sort of a software first business model. I mean, it's always been a software first business model, but in our glorious capitalistic system, perpetual growth is demanded. It is the gospel, the gospel of perpetual infinite growth. And if you're being bottlenecked by supply issues, if you're being bottlenecked not only by supply issues, but by the pure virtue of the fact that the console install base isn't really growing, by Jim Ryan's own admission, then once the only way to fix that bottleneck is to start exploring other platforms, which is mobile in the case of cloud gaming, and PC in the case of everything else. And Horizon Zero Dawn, Death Stranding, and Days Gone all performed very well on PC. You really think they're gonna just stop, when it's just basically just free money? No, of course not. That's the way it's all going, And I think the only company that won't do it is probably Nintendo, but maybe even they'll do it eventually. Who knows? Nintendo's always been a bit of a wild card, but I don't know. Nintendo's plan for growth is gone completely off the rails. They're like building theme parks now. They're like, we want to be Disney. So like that's how Nintendo's gonna grow. They're gonna become literally Disney. They're gonna start making huge blockbuster movies and start putting, theme parks on every continent, and then just rake in the cash from that. Although I don't know if theme parks is a good idea in the current pandemic world we live in, but But yeah, I agree with you, Rand. I think that is the future. That is probably the future, and I think it's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time.
Radimus says in the super chat, God of War is going to PC before Uncharted, but it was announced later, almost like they needed to get the hardcore fans ready. It's interesting, isn't it? And Face says, Horizon 5 Halo Infinite goes to PC day one, nobody cares. God of War 2018, 3 years later, goes to PC, breaks the internet, and I'm willing to make a bet about day and date, Rand. I mean, the bet, I don't know, the whole bet thing would be, because I don't, like I said, I'm not given a time frame. I don't think it's next year or even the year after. So, we'd be waiting a long time for the bet to actually bear fruit. But it's something we could talk about. Now, as for, Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite goes to PC day one, nobody cares. Yeah. You know why nobody cares? Because it's standard. Microsoft has been putting their games on PC day one for 5 years now. Nobody gets excited about anything standard. It's standard practice. Sony, which has been the holdout, mainly because also the fans have been vocally against Sony putting their games on PC. Let's not forget that. So a lot of the whole breaking the internet is because Sony fans are crying tears that God of War is coming to PC. The reason why people say that nobody cares about Horizon and Halo going to PC is because Xbox is a PC publisher. They're a PC developer. They put all their games on PC. Of course nobody cares at this point because it's just completely standard. That's why, when EA puts their games on PC, nobody cares either because that's just the way it's done. So it's not exciting. It's just the way it is. But for now, every time Sony announces a game, it'll be interesting. And they'll keep on, but the more they do it, the less interesting and exciting it'll get because it'll start becoming more and more standard. So yeah, sure, God of War 4 years later, who really cares at this point? It's extra money, right? And I'm sure that's what everybody's thinking. Yeah, but it's at some point, it's not going to be 4 years. God of War Ragnarok, Do you really think, let's see, God of War Ragnarok comes out this year, right? Do you think it comes to PC in 2026? Or do you think it comes to PC a lot sooner than that? Does it come to PC in 2024? Hell, does it come to PC in 2023? That's the thing. Like, a lot of people are like, well, one, Sony will never do it. And now that they are doing it, oh, well, it's only 2 to 3 to 4 years later. But then what happens when it's only a year later? What happens when it's just 2 years later? What happens when it's 6 months later? What happens when they just take one of their games and do a day and date release just to kind of see, right? So that's why it breaks the internet, simply because a lot of Sony fans hate it. And well, because God of War is also an amazing game and PC players can finally play it. But the more and more this stuff becomes standard, the less and less it's going to break the internet. So that's kind of how it is. Yeah, Microsoft, Microsoft putting their games on PC isn't a thing. Nobody cares because it's been standard for 5 years now. So why would it do anything?
When they did it for Quantum Break, people freaked out then. Do you remember?
They sure did. They sure did. People got bitch slapped down by Phil. People were up in arms about Xbox games going to PC. It was a massive thing. It was huge, and it was the first one. But now, because they've been doing it ever since then, nobody cares. It's just what it is. It's just Microsoft strategy. So, same thing will happen with PlayStation when it becomes more and more standard. And some of it's just because their fan base they blow a gasket whenever a game gets announced for a PlayStation exclusive goes to PC. They're just some of the PlayStation fans act like just children when it comes to that shit. So D.I. Almighty Spartan God says 15 months. Well, damn, it's been that long. It has been a long time, man. Thanks for supporting the channel. Gecko Gamer says, what do you think is going to be necessary to preserve games long term? I personally want to move away from 100% being dependent on storefronts. Game preservation.
That's a controversial topic because, I know that Microsoft has this sort of people are worried about Microsoft's DRM because there is this mentality that Microsoft ever shuts down their servers, you lose access to that content. And we saw it with PlayStation Vita recently, where people were wondering if they were gonna, lose access to their stuff. And Microsoft actually themselves shut down one of their digital stores not a couple of years ago. Microsoft Groove, which was their attempt to take on their ill-fated attempt to take on Spotify. They shut that down, and when they shut it down, they released all the DRM checks on the MP3s and told people to download them if they want to keep them. Now, can you do that with games? Not to the same degree. And there are layers of problems with this because some games are designed around the DRM they have. Like we've seen this before, where a service that is attached to a game gets shut down, and then the game breaks because the game is designed from the ground up to expect the DRM check. So it is a problem to some degree. There are no globally accepted standards for how this should work. No globally accepted practices for preserving games, and we're just sort of depending on companies to do the right thing now. It bugs the hell out of me, Rand, that all through the Wii gen, the whole generation of the Nintendo Wii, Nintendo was selling three backwards compatible games digitally on the Wii as part of their, I think it's called a virtual console, if I remember correctly. They were selling games on there, and then you'd think for the Nintendo Switch they'd put the virtual console and their emulators on the Switch, and we know full well the Switch can do it, but they instead tied those games up to a new subscription service, So anyone who bought the digital version of Super Metroid on the Nintendo Wii, for example, they just have to rely on the fact that their Nintendo Wii is never ever gonna break, and we know that's not gonna happen. But the problem is with all this DRM stuff, if you take a sort of really long view, and I mean a really long view, decades into the future, entropy claims everything in the end. Like, so for me, when I think about this DRM stuff, I'm not worried about DRM. I'm not worried about Microsoft servers shutting down. I'm worried about World War III and the whole civilization collapsing. You know, I think human society would have to end for Microsoft to actually turn off Azure servers, because it would take something truly catastrophic to bury $1 trillion company like Microsoft. So I'm not personally worried about the DRM stuff. I'm more worried about older games, which I'm more worried about older games when it comes to like DRM, because game preservation, because like you can't even buy a lot of these games anymore. You have to like look on eBay, and the games aren't being printed anymore. And how do you even get access to those games? And one way you can get access to them is like relying on companies who own the rights to them to make a digital version, and then at least we got the digital version to look to. But then people have to make those games, and they have to get paid at the end of the day. And how do you pay them? You have to sell the game. How do you make sure people don't pirate them? You have to use DRM. So it's a whole system of pros and cons, really. And then it's ultimately like, what do you personally feel about it? I personally don't care. And I don't think people who are in the Microsoft ecosystem, at least, I don't think you need to worry about them shutting down Azure or shutting down Xbox Live anytime soon. They make way too much money on it. So, I don't know. That's kind of my long-winded take about that. I'm more worried about entropy, Rand, than DRM.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
You worried about entropy?
Worried about them physics, huh?
Yeah, man. And the downfall of democracy and the end of society. That concerns me, not so much the DRM.
Right. Does Game Pass concern you? Do you think it's struggling? Do you think it failed this year, Jez?
Yeah, that was the other big topic of the week. There was who broke that news about the missing targets?
I think I saw who used to be the former editor of Kotaku, Stephen Totillo, his website, I believe.
Oh yeah, it was Axios. Okay,
Yeah.
so Axios news agency broke the news that Microsoft had missed its targets for Xbox Game Pass. It was supposed to grow 40-something%.
48%. Yeah, 48%. Yes. And it only grew 37%. So it missed out on 11%. And this is tied to executive pay bonuses for what, June 20 what was it, June 2020 to June 2021, right? That fiscal year, essentially, last fiscal year. Right. So it was targets they came up with the new fiscal year, where the executive team would get a bonus, right? Correct me if I'm saying this wrong. If Game Pass was 48% or growth was 48% or higher, that Satya would reach his bonus and stuff, and it didn't reach 48%. Or 47% or whatever it was. It only reached 37%. And of course, there's been a lot of talk about this, a lot of articles written. Jeff Grubb had a great one on VentureBeat, which I agreed with. Like, Microsoft needs their big games. They need the Halos to come out and hit, and Forza to come out and hit, and Starfields and the Redfalls. Like, that's what's going to grow Game Pass. Like, indie games are great. And there's tons of amazing ones on the service, but I'm not sure people subscribe. Maybe they do stay subscribed for those, like for the Artful Escapes and the Ascents and stuff like that. But I'm not sure those games really get people to subscribe. I think they get them to stay subscribed. And Microsoft, as we've talked about, they launched the Xbox Series X with Gears Tactics. And they had updates for existing games that were already in Game Pass. They had the Medium, and they had MLB The Show, and Outriders in April. Like, for the most part, I think up until July, I think Game Pass had a pretty bad year for the most part. Obviously, a lot of games been delayed. That factors into it. And when they made this projection, obviously in June, Halo Infinite was supposed to also launch, which, when you factor in, okay, 48% was the target and they hit 37%, what would it have been like if Halo was actually ready at the launch of the Series X? Could they have hit that target? Potentially, maybe they would have, and then nobody would be talking about them missing a target. They maybe would have hit it if Halo had come out. I think what this really signals is an overreaction, because a lot of people really don't talk about how this is, as you mentioned, since you're in the Microsoft reporting, how these targets are always really high, right, Jez? Like, they're high for a reason.
Yeah.
And that Teams and Surface didn't hit their targets either, right?
Yeah, a bunch of Microsoft service didn't hit their executive pay bonus targets. Surface didn't hit it apparently, and some others didn't hit it. But it's it's like you say, those targets are high pie in the sky kind of targets for a reason, because they want to pressure the people in charge to actually deliver serious results. I think, like, it's really funny because imagine if the target had been 35%, right? And they had to grow 35%, and they did hit it. People would still be like, nobody be talking about it. But because they missed the target, apparently that's somehow like a bad thing, even though it grew like by a massive amount. And obviously then you get people who have an axe to grind with Xbox and want to troll and stuff like that. They take it and they spin it into something that it ain't, and then we get like a whole bunch of articles and stuff about it. I think Tom Warren's tweet about it cracked me up. Like, oh no, poor Microsoft, they have to recover from 37% growth. Like when you like seriously like put it into perspective and really like analyze what's going on here, it's positive news at the end of the day. But those targets are high for a reason. But the executives have to earn that, and to get some of these targets is like getting blood out of a stone. And it also comes back to what you said earlier, Rand, that Xbox has become more of a mature studio, and they are willing to delay games now. Like, they could have released Halo Infinite last year in a mess.
They could have.
And that probably, even in a messy state, it probably would have boosted Game Pass subs, because it's Halo. But they were like, no, we're gonna pace ourselves and do the right thing and release it as good as it can be, because that's what people want. Ultimately, they want Halo to be good. And if Halo's in a bad place because of COVID or whatever, which is still sending shockwaves throughout the gaming industry, it's not gone away, we're still in a pandemic, then that would have been bad. It would have been a bad thing. So I think they totally did the right thing in delaying that, even if it meant some executives missed their bonuses. But like, you have to wonder, in another company like your Activision or whatever, Activision hitting their target bonuses or whatever, would Bobby Kotick have cut the same corner? Would Bobby Kotick would he have made those same delays? I don't think he would, because evidently Activision love releasing unfinished games, like Warcraft 3 Reforged, which is a total mess. And the other load of half-baked games that they've released lately. So I don't know. I think it's just a bit of a non-story. I don't think it's a big deal, but I do completely agree that to start turning the gasoline up, they need those AAA bangers, because those are the games that really, really boost the service. Yeah, I mean, it's great that Back 4 Blood is doing well. It's really great, but I don't think a Back 4 Blood is going to do the same kind of numbers as a Halo. It's not going to do the same kind of numbers as a Starfield. It's not going to do the same kind of numbers as, I don't know, Peppa Pig. Why isn't Peppa Pig in Game Pass?
Yeah, but I think people might actually subscribe for Back for Blood and a game like Outriders, though. Like I actually
Yeah, the
think
multiplayer.
those are important. And George says in the super chat, first half of 2022 is the same. Nothing till Redfall. Nothing till the end of the year with Redfall and Forza. And he says Microsoft needs to do a better job of spacing games. First half of 2022 is empty, while the back half is full. They need Age of Empires, Persona, etc. First half of 2022. And yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, they launched Gears Tactics as a launch game, and they didn't. Their next first party game wasn't until July for Microsoft Flight Sim, which had already been out on PC the year before, and Psychonauts 2 in August. So yeah, like Game Pass didn't have its best year. And you look at the end of the year and it's stuffed, right? You got Age of Empires in October, you have Forza in November, and you have Halo in December. And then here comes 2022, and we already know Starfield's end of the year. It has a release date, November 22nd, right? You can assume if Forza Motorsport comes out, it's probably in October. And we know Redfall, they say, is summer, so probably September. So you're already looking for, once again, the end of the year is probably going to be packed for Xbox. But what about the first, 9 months of the year? Xbox usually seems to forget that people want to play video games in the first 9 months. And I understand some of that has to do with when these games are targeted to come out and all that stuff. Like, I get it, but like Stalker's coming out in April. Maybe Estus Falls comes out at a certain point. But you're right, Georgie. They need to do a better job of it. We think that's when the one AAA game per quarter will start hitting in 2023, and I think Xbox will never look back after that. So it's frustrating to know that, like,
there's something interesting you just made me think about is the fact that I heard Obsidian is gunning for one game every year for the next, like they've got plans for a game every year for the next 7 years. That's what I've heard about Obsidian. I have no idea if they're gonna feasibly be able to hit that. That's a pretty ambitious goal, but it does make me wonder if that's like, could they be trying to build a model that other studios can follow? Like, are they trying to build like what does a Game Pass studio look like? Do they have like 2 big releases and then 2 smaller teams working on like more experimental things like Grounded and stuff like that? It's interesting to think about for me. Because I do, Obsidian is absolutely, they're smashing it. Like believe it or not, I've been playing Grounded basically this whole podcast. Because they released a pretty massive update for the game, Hot and Hazy, with a bunch of new features in, and it sucked me back into the game. And this is a game made by a very, very small team. You cannot possibly take away. Like, I don't care if people don't like Grounded. That's totally cool. It's survival's not for everyone, but you have to admire what a team of 12 people pulled together here. This is like, Grounded is way more polished than Ark Survival Evolved. Like, it's not even close. Like, Ark Survival Evolved, and I might upset some people here because I know Ark Survival Evolved, that's a serious fan base, but man, Grounded plays far better than Ark Survival Evolved. It's way more polished. It's smoother. The engine's better. Like, and this is a team of 12 people. I think it's more polished and it plays better than Conan Exiles as well, which has a far bigger team behind it. So I think Obsidian is truly something special. And I do wonder, like, can other studios look at how Obsidian's, approaching their game development and emulate that to get Game Pass in a flow of like one hempole release every quarter, or maybe. Did I say it's not 12 people? It's 20 people. Sorry, Grounded has 20 people on it. I think. It's a small team, put it that way. Not a big team by any means, but yeah, it's cool to think about.
Yeah, I mean, like, also 38%. There's gonna be times in the future where Xbox is gonna wish they could hit 38%. When you're already at 40 million or 50 million, growing the next year at 30% isn't really probably a viable thing, right? So. I don't know. It's interesting. It just seems like Game Pass has this target on its back for a lot of people. They don't like it. The people, whether there's just a lot of people that don't like the service because they think somehow it's going to change the industry for the worse, or change. And change is always a thing people fear. So they see it missing by 11%, and they're like, "Oh, it's done for." Like this is it. Like wrap it up. Not only is Game Pass done for, that means Xbox is done for because they put so much behind it. So it's like Xbox is they're done. Like they're getting out of the gaming business. Game Pass has failed. Blah 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 blah. They'll do their Twitter Spaces and talk about a system they hate, and be like, "What's going on here? Why is Game Pass sucking so bad?" But then God of War comes to PC the next day, and there's nobody in Twitter Spaces talking about God of War coming to PC. Interesting. So yeah, the thing is, it's like they need games. Also, like the chip shortage hurts. Not being able to sell Series X's to help grow the Game Pass thing. Like not having the best store on the PC side of things isn't helping either. So there's ways they can get better. It's just like, but the big thing is they need the games, like 100%. You're not going to grow a service if you don't got the games and the games people want to play. So we heard Jeff Grubb say that they got billions earmarked for Game Pass. They're going to have to spend some of those billions next year because early next year looks a lot like early this year. So Microsoft's going to have to go out and spend some of that money and convince some of these publishers and developers to put their games on Game Pass day one, because that is what's going to grow Game Pass. Big AAA games on Game Pass day one, mingled in with Xbox's own first-party content. So that's just what Xbox needs, and they didn't have it this year until basically now, until Forza and Halo hits. And then they're going to have a dry first half of 2022 until Redfall and Starfield hit at the end. And then 2023 should be the beginning of basically what Xbox has been trying to aspire to since they started Game Pass, which is one AAA game a quarter. And that's when you'll know, like, is Game Pass something that's going to grow? Is like you have all these games now? Is it still going to, like not hit its targets, I guess. So we'll see. There's always something with Game Pass, and it's usually negative from a group of people, but we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out.
It's hard to grow a service,
Yeah.
It's hard. Like Netflix is, like even like Disney Plus. Like Disney Plus is not close to Netflix. Like even with all the power Disney has, Netflix is just on a completely another level. And Disney is probably like racking their brains, like, how can we grow? How can we like get up to that level? And it's just time and investment. It takes time, and it's gonna be harder for Xbox because, like, at least with media, it's a little bit. I don't want to say simpler, but it's like it's easier to get a TV show or a movie across devices. With Game Pass Cloud, they've got to come up with whole new systems and paradigms to make that shit work. And it's going to take time, but they'll get there. Netflix got there. Netflix famously was laughed out of a board meeting with Blockbuster, who are now dead. And the people who are laughing at Game Pass now are going to be the ones with egg on their face, or the ones that are very, very quiet, in the future. The people writing the articles, the people who are like, thin, they're writing articles and they're sort of they're struggling to hide their fear of it, the fear of change, like you say, because they're reaching for any kind of way to pour scorn on it, and it's obvious sometimes. It's like really obvious that it's just like you don't really have that strong of an argument here, mate. It's just kind of coming across a bit like you just don't like what it might do to the industry. Or whatever, or you've spoken to a dev who shared a fear about it, like, because I think it is fair to have some fear of it, because Netflix has disrupted the theater industry, Spotify sure as hell disrupted the music industry, but I don't think Game Pass has to be like do the bad things like Spotify did to the music industry. I don't think Game Pass has to be there. I think Game Pass can learn from Spotify and make a platform that works for everyone involved. And that's my thoughts on that.
Interesting. Edward King says, what other Xbox studios can stretch out with multiple teams like Obsidian?
I think Playground might be able to.
Well, I mean, they got two studios. One's doing Forza, one's doing Fable. So yeah.
I mean, even splitting off to make smaller games and stuff.
Double Fine. I mean,
they're in some way. Double Fine are doing something similar, and I suppose to some degree, Ninja Theory did that with Bleeding Edge. God rest its soul. Not that it's actually dead. I know a lot of people who still play that game. That is funny. I might actually write an article about that because do you know Bleeding Edge still has a pretty strong community of people who play it every day.
What, of 100 people?
Mean, yeah, maybe. But it's you could still get a game in Bleeding Edge. It's not it's full of bots or anything. You can still get a game in Bleeding Edge. I think Bleeding Edge shouldn't have been dropped as quick as it was, but that's just me. But I digress.
Yeah.
What's the next topic, Rand?
Matt Booty's comments. Everybody in the media asked him about, hey, what about you gonna make these PlayStation style blockbuster games? And Xbox says kind of, yeah. So he was on the interview with Kind of Funny Games and was asked if they want Sony style blockbusters. And this is what Matt had to say. He said, first, to bring it up, hats off to Sony and their studio system and their leaders that they got there. It's fantastic. You can't argue with the quality and the craft of the games they delivered, that they're working on now, and the stuff we've seen so far. So kudos and hats off to them. He says, I tend to come at that less of one of these and more making sure that we are paying attention to fan expectations. I think there's a certain kind of game that generates an anticipation that kind of becomes this big tentpole moment. It's a game that fits the intersection that everybody can play, and it's also a big world that you feel like you can inhabit. I think those kind of games are important. And it's been a place where we have not been out in front. We haven't really had that sort of one-to-one with Sony. He doesn't want to get into, well, where's our Uncharted or our own Horizon Zero Dawn? Where's our this and where's our that? He doesn't think that does anybody any good, but what his takeaway is that there are games that have universal themes, that have got a big world that people want to get lost in, and have really well-realized characters and high production values. And that is absolutely what we want to go after. And that they want to have those kinds of games for their fans is important to them. So, what is your takeaway from Mr. Booty, who normally he's very quiet. He doesn't really do a lot of interviews like Phil does. He's kind of more reserved. They don't bring him out for a lot of these things, a lot of interviews. But what do you think about his comments?
They are doing a round of rounds of interviews at the minute because it's the 20th anniversary coming up, so they've got they're celebrating. There are things to celebrate at the moment. So I think we'll probably see other interviews. As probably Phil do some interviews with some legitimate outlets. Not with me. I don't get interviews with Phil. I'm not cool enough. But we'll see. I suspect you'll see Phil in some of the big the big name outlets out there maybe. But what do I think of Matt Booty's comments? Well, it's sort of we've heard it before, right? Haven't we? Surely, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of I'm just sort of tired of hearing it. I just want to see it now. I do firmly believe that Hellblade will be sort of their attempt, at least. Because some people misquoted me last week.
Oh my god, I'm shocked. No, misquoted Jez about Hellblade. Oh my god, no, I didn't see that coming a million miles away.
Yeah. I said that I think Hellblade will be the God of War competitor or whatever. And someone said, Jez said Hellblade will be better than God of War or something like that, which is not what I said. I just said that'll be that kind of that'll be in that kind of vein. I think it'll be third-person action game with a deep story, and I think it'll be it'll scratch the itch that Xbox fans have been sort of pining for in a world bereft of God of War-ish games on Xbox. But will it be as good as God of War? I have no idea. And it's a huge amount of pressure on a studio like Ninja Theory, because Ninja Theory is nowhere near as big as Naughty Dog, and there's nowhere near as big as Sony Santa Monica. They're a much smaller studio, and they've got their work cut out for them in a way, because Xbox fans are very heavily relying on them to deliver these sort of tentpole experiences. And is that fair? Is it fair to heap that kind of pressure on them? Sorry, man, I'm starting to get sleepy now. But will they actually be able to deliver? I have no idea. I want to hope so, but it's just another one of them. Wait and see kind of thing. Wait and see. I'm tired of waiting and seeing, though. I just want to see it now. I just want to see it. How much longer are we gonna have to wait before we can see these things?
I mean, that is true. I mean, talk is cheap, right? Is one of those things. Yeah. He's asked a question and he answers it. And, he's like, yeah, Sony does a great job, and kudos to them, which is, I think the right way of going about it. But, like the Sony's games are all like really high production values, great characters, and that's what people want from Xbox. Not necessarily like a 1-to-1, like you said, like Uncharted or like Horizon Zero Dawn. Like you need to make that, but what a lot of fans want is like we want games that have high production values, that look great, with amazing characters and a great world. And sometimes, this past generation, you can make the argument Xbox didn't really hit on that. And that's fair to say. So, yeah, like you said, it's. I think they know what the fans want. And, I hope they deliver on that. Because there's been a lot of waiting. And if, people wait and you say, good things are coming, then those good things better come. Because if they don't come, people are just going to be pissed off, and they're going to be like, why did I wait for you? You said you were going to do these things and you didn't, and you didn't do it. So yeah, like they better hope that Compulsion's game is a great experience, is a great third-person narrative adventure game or whatever, and that Perfect Dark hits all of the fans' expectations. When you bring in Crystal Dynamics and you say, hey, they make the kind of game, or they're good at making the type of game that Perfect Dark is shaping up to be, then people have an idea in their head. Well, Crystal Dynamics makes, okay, look at Tomb Raider. I know what that looks like and plays like. And I know Marvel Avengers, for a lot of flack people gave it for the multiplayer, like game looked good and and had a really good single player campaign. So like what Crystal Dynamics is good at. So it's like you're telling people like, well, this is what expect Perfect Dark to be like this, right? And as you mentioned before, when you drop CGI trailers of State of Decay 3, which look infinitely better than State of Decay 2, you need to kind of hit those expectations where you talk about, high production values and stuff like that, right? So hopefully Xbox Game Studios can hit that. And I think a lot of their studios will. I think Obsidian's going to kill it. I think people are probably going to love Avowed. Even though it may not be the heavily cinematic game that people want, but like, I don't necessarily want or need Xbox to do 1-to-1 copy PlayStation. They need to do their own thing and be great at it. That's the thing, because most of the time with this past gen, they weren't great at what they were trying to do. Sometimes it was great, and sometimes it was bad. So, I have PlayStation to do the PlayStation stuff, and I have Xbox for everything that Xbox is doing. And all I've wanted, whether it's a AA or AAA game from Xbox, is the game to be great and amazing. Whether It's a small game like Psychonauts 2 or a big game like Halo. I don't care. I'm not looking for all their studios to copy PlayStation. I want them to do their own thing. But the one thing I do demand is that the games actually be quite good. They can't just be like, well, the game's just okay, but what does it matter because it's in Game Pass? Nah, fuck that. Fuck that. I hate that fucking argument. It's fucking bullshit. I see people bring it up all the time where it's like, it's okay. It's a 6 out of 10. It's a 7 out of 10. But it's free, though. Fuck that. I don't care if it's fucking free in Game Pass. My time is valuable. Like, I'm not here to play boring-ass bullshit and play games that are just merely okay, and it's okay simply because it's in a subscription service. Like, I have Netflix. I watch a lot of stuff on Netflix, but I only watch good shit or the shit I like. I'm not watching every single garbage thing that Netflix puts out because my time is valuable. So Xbox better hope that they got the studios they want and that their money can help them build bigger and better games that are going to be great. Because I'm telling you, we come to a couple years from now and Hellblade 2 is just merely okay, but people are saying, it's fine because it's in Game Pass for free. Fuck that shit. I hate that fucking argument. I hate it when people bring that up all the time as an excuse. As Game Pass is an excuse for games to be mediocre. I think I just hate it. I hate it so much. You know, I might
say rude, Phil.
Well, and I'll give like something like Outsiders and Back 4 Blood a pass because Xbox isn't making those games, right? Like, whatever. You can put those games on the service, that's fine. I'm like, you're making your own games and you're putting your own games on the service. Those games better be great. I'm not saying every single, like, all those games have to be the super high production value that PlayStation has, but, like, if it's Psychonauts 2, like, and it hit that. Like, I had my doubts about Psychonauts. I was like, what is this small little game going to be? But it wasn't small. And it had great production values for what it was. And it had a great story. And it was like, it was everything that I wanted it to be. That I didn't even know I wanted. It was a game I didn't even know I want. And it came out and it was absolutely fantastic. And it's going to be it's going to be going to be nominated for Game of the Year. That's what I want. Whether it's a small game or a big game, I just want it to be unique and amazing from Xbox. I just don't want to have to be like, well, Crackdown 3 was fun, and it was free. I don't fucking give a shit if it's free. It needs to be really fucking good, and that's the only way Xbox Game Pass is going to grow. That people are going to look at Xbox differently than how they have in the past. People, I don't know, like it seemed like with this past gen, people just expected mediocrity. Like, that needs to change, and you can't just use Game Pass as an excuse to put out just okay games just because, well, it's free. No, the games need to be great. That's how you're going to grow Game Pass. That's how you're going to change people's minds about the service and about Xbox in general.
You're right.
So.
You are right, pal.
So.
Preach, right?
We'll see. We'll see. Because I'm sure if Halo Infinite's campaign isn't good, I'm sure we're going to see people use the excuse, it's free in Game Pass. Who cares? And I don't know. It just, that excuse and that whole thing just infinitely bothers me. Just, it really does. It's like you don't care about quality. Like, you just care about not spending, whatever. Anyways, I just had to get that off my chest. Right. So, yeah, hopefully, they can back up what they're saying. So we'll see. We shall see. But anyways, I think that's where we're going to end the show. We'll take some questions because it's already kind of getting late. So thank you guys for being here. Make sure you hit the like button. This will be up on, Spotify and Google Play and iTunes. Whenever Jez gets around to it, I'll send him the file. And you guys can listen to it there. We appreciate everyone being here on Saturday. Alvin says people will not use that excuse here in 2019, man. No, I see people use that excuse all the time. So I'm just saying that can't be an excuse anymore. So yeah, it just can't be. I won't accept it. I'll just be like, no, it doesn't matter that this game is bad just because it's in Game Pass or whatever. So, anyways, let's see. Do we have any questions, Jez? Do you have anything you want to say? We got one from X Gamer. Does Jez know anything about being able to change the email associated with the Xbox account without deleting or removing the original?
You do that in account.microsoft.com, and then under your user settings, it is possible to do, I think. I've tried to do it, but my account is like bugged, and it won't let me change. It won't let me change on mine for some reason. So I don't know if it's because I got so much content tied to my account or something. I have no idea, but the whole account system and changing the email addresses is kind of messed up on Xbox. But you do it through, if it works for you, you do it through accounts. Or is it account or accounts? It's either accounts.microsoft.com or accounts.microsoft.com. And there's a setting somewhere in there to do it. But yeah, maybe I'll write a guide about that next week. I don't know off the top of my head exactly how to do it, is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, let me see here. Google kind of went wonky on me. Hopefully it was still live. It was weird because it says I was logged out. Which I wasn't, but either way, I think we're still live. Let me go and see if we still are. Yeah, let me see here. I think we are. No, and then we're still live. I gotta make sure. Lydia says, Rand, what are you doing for the 20th anniversary? Jez, what will Windows Central do for the 20th anniversary? I don't know what I'm doing yet. I mean, we got about a month to decide, so maybe I'll stream it. I don't know. Jez, you know what your plans are for Windows Central yet?
Man, I'm just exhausted of this year already, so I don't know if we've made any explicit plans for the anniversary. We'll definitely be covering it. I don't know if we're going to do anything specific for it, but who knows? Wait and see. But yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it at least.
Yeah. Let's see here. What else we got? Airfet wants to know what about our thoughts on the rapid popularity of the Series S in Japan, and he hopes Xbox goes for more indies. It's good to see that they're seeing more success in Japan. The Series S, small system. We know that the Japanese like the smaller systems, and it's a mobile country. So yeah, they just need to work more in the Japanese market to maybe this is the gen they start crawling back with Japanese audience. Maybe they can make more Japanese title, like get some more Japanese games on their platform, maybe buy a Japanese studio, and like maybe they start seeing some moderate success in the country. It's interesting, but it all goes to like demand and the games. Like you have to have games that appeal to that country, and Series S, maybe it fits over there. So let's see. What do we think about the rumors that Everwild development isn't going as bad as initially believed? I mean, what was it like? The report was that it was completely rebooted, and Matt said, "No, it's not as bad as it sounds." It was just like, hey, they're always making sure the game's good. It did lose its creative director, so maybe some things changed, but we know what the game's gonna look like, and they're probably just figuring out like how to make it fun and how what's the gameplay loop, and maybe there was just differing thoughts at the studio about it and stuff. So we'll see whenever we do see it again. Funchito says, any news on the Game Pass and Steam rumor? Do you think it's more interesting for Xbox or for Valve? I think it's more interesting for Xbox because Valve has 140 million players a month, and Xbox is one of Xbox's target growth areas is PC, but they know nobody wants to use the Windows Store to play their games, so it would greatly help out Microsoft's long-term goals to get Game Pass in front of those PC users and have them subscribe. So I think would be more interesting for Xbox than for Valve. I mean, Valve's already the dominant force in PC gaming. I haven't heard anything about Game Pass on Steam. I don't know if you have, Jez, or what your thoughts are about it are.
Game Pass on Steam. Man, I just wonder what the deal looks like personally. Definitely, Microsoft wants it more than Valve potentially, because at the end of the day, like potentially Valve loses sales if people just use Game Pass and Valve doesn't have any kind of kickback. But Microsoft is earning a lot of goodwill with third-party storefronts at the minute because of their new Windows Store policy. So the new Windows Store policy is third-party stores can be on the Windows Store now. So like, for example, the Amazon App Store, the Android Amazon App Store is now on the Windows Store, which is like Storeception, on the Windows Insider channel right now. And I think Epic Game Store has been announced to be coming to the Windows Store and stuff like that. So we are going to see some of that, that coming to Windows. So maybe because of that, Steam starts being like, well, okay, well, if Microsoft's doing that and letting us keep all the revenue, 100% of the revenue, by the way, maybe that changes things and moves the needle. But we'll just have to wait and see. I just want to play Game Pass on the Steam Deck, man. Definitely getting one of those.
What else we got here? Rand, how does Rand light his pipe at the end of Memory of Light? I don't know, but that definitely was like, I was like, huh, interesting. What do you think about the Game Pass Ultimate perks for Halo Infinite? Well, we don't know what they are. We kind of knew they were going to do them because Microsoft does do these perks for other games, and it only makes sense for them to do it for Infinite. Maybe some armor sets, maybe some weapon skins. That seems to be the most logical thing they could do for Game Pass Ultimate. I don't think they'll give away the Battle Pass. Maybe they give away the Battle Pass for the first time. I don't know. But yeah, those are sort of things I expect for Halo Infinite, like skins and for your armor and for your guns and stuff for all the perks. Face wants to know, we keep hearing about mid-gen refreshes. Do you think we'll have new systems midway through the gen? I think, Jez, you were more when these systems launches, you thought, no, there wouldn't be. But I don't know. I still think not only will we see slim versions of these consoles, I do think we will see mid-gen refreshes at some point.
Is that one of your Rand predictions?
No, I mean, how would I know that? How would I know that? I mean, we're talking about a system that
you're Randall Insider.
No, I'm not. Despite what you put in your article about me being an Xbox noted insider, I fight back against that. Hell, when I was on Kind of Funny XCast, yeah, Mike introduced me as like an insider. I said, I'm not an insider and I'm not an influencer. I'm just me. I'm just Randall Thor 19, who cried at the end of Wheel of Time because it was over, and I was just an emotional wreck when I finished it. Abdullah wants to know if either of us are into Forza, and if so, which series, Motorsports or Horizon? I'm really into Horizon. I will play Horizon 5 for easily 100 hours. I am not a motorsports fan simply because I don't like sim racers, and I think Jez probably feels the same as me.
I'm not into any kind of racing.
Yeah,
we'll play Mario Kart at a push, but that's it.
Edward King...
Actually, no. I like F-Zero and I like Wipeout because they've got guns in them.
George says 343 have confirmed that the Battle Pass comes with Game Pass. Did they? I haven't seen that anywhere. I mean, if they have, great. But you're the only person I've seen that said that. I'm sure that would have been all over social media if that was the case, and I haven't seen any of that. So I'm not sure if that's true. Edward King says updates on rumored Xbox and Nintendo partnership. You'd have to go ask Special Nick about that because he was the one that said there was a Nintendo and Xbox partnership being announced this fall. Well, it's October, almost November, and they haven't said anything. Jez, what if they announce an Xbox and Nintendo partnership during the 20th anniversary?
What does that even mean? What is the
I
partnership
don't know.
exactly?
I mean, I don't know. We have to get the information from Nick. He's the one that said something's happening this fall, and fall's almost here.
In Nick Al Insider.
Yeah, special Nick. Let's see here. I think that's it. I know Jez is getting super tired. We've been going on for just exactly 3 hours. Thank you guys so much for being here. We love doing the show. Love talking to you guys about Xbox and everything. Don't mind my F-bombs at the end of the show. Nobody's going to know about that. It's at the end of the show. Nobody watches all the way through to the end of the show, right?
Actually, most people do watch the whole show according to analytics.
That's amazing if they do.
Well, at least they do on Spotify and stuff.
So Steven says you get perks with Game Pass and there's a free battle pass, but everyone has to pay for the seasonal pass. That makes sense. There's always a free battle pass with any of these big battle royale shooters. Like there is a free version, but you don't always get rewards every tier or every level. So that does make sense. But like yeah, if you want everything you have to pay for it. So yeah, so we'll be back next week. Are we going to be doing Friday, Jez, or are we going to be doing Saturday? Since you're why we did it Saturday these 2 weeks.
Hang on. We should be on Friday.
So we should be on Friday. Hopefully, we'll have a lot to talk about. Maybe Xbox has more announcements this week. That'd be pretty cool. And I'll try to get Jez to talk more about another, code name that he has information for. Maybe I shouldn't always try to stop him from leaking stuff. Maybe I should just have him leak everything. So. With that said, we hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Go watch Dune if you haven't, because it's absolutely amazing. And
oh god, yeah, Dune.
Yeah,
is incredible.
And we'll see you next week. Keep it gaming, guys. Later.
Bye.